end of time.
O'clock.
Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Wednesday night once again, and here we are. Tom is in the back going,
Yeah. I was just thinking about that fucking car door.
oh, he's just thinking about the car door. Well, you have to think about other stuff now because we're doing the show, so you can't be distracted by the car door the whole entire time.
On my Grand Marquis, there's a keyless entry thing that Ford has, and it's slightly worn out. It looks kind of crappy. The rest of the car looks fucking great. I bought a new one. Just plug and play. It goes in there. All right. I got. It was supposed to be good for 2,000, and I asked the AI. It says, "Well, mine's a 99. It work?" It said it should, because it's only mentioned in one part number. Took the door apart, got the fucking module out. There's nowhere to plug it in. In the year 99, it's just wired directly into the wiring harness inside the door. No plug.
Well, that's the last time you listened to AI.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell it. It says, no, it doesn't work.
You were wrong.
Yeah.
So
I could get that wiring harness off of an older one, a junk door, cut it, and splice it in. Put a plug there. Just make sure the wires are in the right order. So I could get a new module. But who knows? Maybe the ECM won't run it. The brain might not run it. It may be different. I don't know.
All right, so hey everybody, CB saying I voted for Jack the Ripper Revisited. Yeah, like that did get some votes too. This one by like not a huge margin, but like a pretty big margin. And honestly, I've been wanting to do a show about cargo cults for a long time because I don't even remember where I first heard about these. I think I read a book that had something about it, like back in the 70s or something. And something about it was just so fascinating to me because I really like... I'm always really interested in how, like, religions or, like, belief systems start. And you kind of get a glimpse of it in this thing, in the way cargo cults are. Now, I kind of feel like the heyday of them was... you kind of had some like precursors like in the late 19th century, but the big heyday of it was like right around World War II. But there are still some around today, but you know, obviously their numbers have dwindled significantly, but there are a few around. There is a good documentary it's free on YouTube, and it's called Waiting for John. I think it's just called Waiting for John, but it's marked as Waiting for John from or John Froome, which we're going to be talking about later. And it's really good. And they kind of like talk about, I mean, I don't remember the name of the woman that made it, but they talked to like all the villagers and stuff like that and showed like all the stuff that they do. But they were still, at the time that they made the documentary, which I think it was pre-2021 because the chief of the village that they were talking to, his name was Isaac Wan. He died in 2021 and he was still in this. So it was pre-2021. But as of that, I think there was like about only 250 followers of this particular quote-unquote cargo cult. They don't really call them that anymore, at least like in an anthropological standpoint, because it's not really... I don't know. I think they think it's like too reductive or kind of insulting or whatever, but...
Well, I think the thing is that what's happening in a cargo cult, the same psychological forces that are happening, and they happen with all people, just in different ways. Like, you know... You could say, well, these aren't sophisticated people. They're not. They're usually a tribal person. And they saw an airfield, you know, and planes come down and had food on it. And then they said, well, fuck it. We make an airfield. Planes will come and land and bring us food. You know, it's kind of like reverse thinking. But so more sophisticated people kind of do the fucking same thing. You know, they're educated in ways to believe certain things that are just demonstrably not true, but they'll still believe them. Because that's what they were told was true. Usually it has to do with philosophy, part of human nature and shit like that, you know. They're told that humans are a certain way, and that's not how humans are. You know, fucking humans are just part of the animal kingdom, and they act just like any other fucking simian, you know, very, very similar. You know, that's why you can get along with a chimp. And that's why a chip can bite your face off, because it's like a human too.
Yeah.
A human would do that if it was mad at you. You know. So, yeah, there's a lot of cargo cultish thinking in everyone.
Well, and the thing,
it's just not as obvious as it is.
It's kind of a more specific version of magical thinking.
Magical thinking.
But yeah. I saw like a video, and it didn't really have that many views, and I can't remember the name of it. But she was talking about cargo cults, and at the end, she did like a 5 or 10 minute segment where she was comparing the formation of a cargo cult to the early days of Christianity.
Yeah.
And it was very similar. So it's just kind of like, and even some of the proponents that are in cargo cults, when they've been interviewed, because they know about Christianity because there were missionaries and stuff over the years, and they did ask the chief in the John Frum documentary. It's like, you guys have been waiting for, decades for this John Frum person to come back. And he's like, well, you've been waiting for Christ to come back for 2,000 years.
Yeah.
So, like, they know that it's the same. You know what I mean? It was, like, kind of funny that he said that to them. But I thought it was really funny.
I know all about Christianity. I know all about fucking how religions are formed. I was, grew up as a Christian in a Christian military academy, but it was more like just cultural Christianity. I didn't really take it that seriously. But then as I got older, I realized how many things I thought were fucking true just because I was told they were true. I thought that Jesus was actually just some kind of street preacher that got famous, and then people attributed all these miracles to him. But then as I understood how religions actually worked, was that no, not at all. Because there'd be religions about every fucking street preacher. What would make him any different? He's a mythological person.
Yeah.
If there was, they're always talking about the historical Jesus. If there was a historical Jesus, nothing of him remains in the New Testament. Everything in there is some kind of story, rebooted from another religion, and there's a bunch of Socrates in there. There doesn't seem to be anything original, It's very, you'd call it today corporate, and very much rebooted. And so it just kind of goes to show that people just take things for granted based upon like a cultural background that they're given. And that goes with your education and everything. Just because you're educated doesn't mean you've been well educated, because you go back in time, you go back 400 years, 500 years, people went to universities, fucking learned a lot of bullshit. A lot of it wasn't true. But they were considered educated in their time.
Comparatively.
Yeah. Well, they'd be the most educated guys there, Yeah. They were intelligent. Well, here a good example is Isaac Newton. Motherfucker was figuring out physics, trigonometry. He was a genius. But he was also trying to work on alchemy, and he was
also an alchemist.
And he believed in angels and believed in literally, he was a religious fundamentalist, which that doesn't seem to make sense. You would think that he'd be able to go through that, but no. That was the cultural milieu of the day.
Yeah, so it seems weird to us nowadays because usually those two things are incompatible, but...
Yeah, today they're incompatible.
Back then they weren't
incompatible.
They didn't really... I'm not going to say they didn't know any better, but it didn't seem incompatible to them at the time. Papa77, thank you very much, sent us a super chat. Said, hey guys, I have to bring this up right at the jump. Jenny, have you seen the new Hulu series about Fox Hollow Farm?
Yeah,
about Herb Baumeister? Yes, we did watch that whole series, I think last night and the night before we watched it. And it was really, really good. And I kind of like that they did go out there and they found a couple more bone fragments. And they're still trying to identify some of the victims, because what do they think now? 25? They think he killed 25 people? Yeah. I'm not sure how I feel, because I kind of feel like the last 2 episodes they were pushing really hard. I don't know if they were pushing hard, but they were trying to suggest pretty strongly that Mark Goodyear, the one that got away, was somehow maybe an accomplice. Which I don't know. I don't know if I believe that. He doesn't come across as the most stable person. I think he legit knew what was going on. He admits he knew what was going on, but did he actually help Herb Baumeister do any of that stuff? I don't think so, but I definitely do think he knew about it. But I don't know. I wasn't there, but like I said, he seemed like Tom was he mostly seems he just wants attention.
Yeah, I think
he just wants to install himself into the story.
Yeah.
Kind of, maybe more than he was actually involved. I'm not sure.
He may have met Herb, You know, but I don't think he had anything to do with anything. He's writing himself into that. And,
Yeah.
And he's... Oh, well, he's just trying to get attention. I can just tell you that's what kind of a personality he was.
Yeah, but like I said, I don't think that he was directly involved.
Mm.
But I do think if he did know Baumeister, I do think he knew or suspected what was going on. I mean, he admitted as much. But like I said, I'm not sure how much of his stuff you can take. I don't know. I just took a lot of what he said with a grain of
There's a
salt.
lot of shit that he could have been... Well, at the time, he probably didn't fucking suspect anything, but now that it all came out, oh, yeah, I knew it. I suspected
Yeah,
it
might just be
He's
that.
doing
like,
that shit
I knew
retroactively.
he was a murderer. Like, from
Yeah,
the
I figured it was him.
Yeah.
And he kind of dances around it, you know. Makes it seem like he might have fucking been an accomplice, but he denies it. But
Yeah, it was
it's a dude
weird.
that wants a bunch of attention.
It was a weird interview for sure.
Yeah, he wants attention.
It was a weird interview.
I wouldn't trust that dude as far as you could throw him.
Yeah, I wasn't
He's just
really-
a weird dude.
Yeah, he was pretty weird.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't know.
He's got histrionic personality disorder.
Yeah, a tad.
That's what it looked like.
So, but yeah, it was a really interesting series, though. We've been watching that one, and then there's another one, I think is also on Hulu, that's, what's it called? How I Escaped My Cult or something like that. We've been watching those as well.
Yeah.
We watched the Warren Jeffs one. And,
Yeah. That was good. Good
yeah,
one.
that was a good one. Because I think we saw another document. Did we do a show about Warren Jeffs? I feel like we did.
Yeah, I think we did stuff about that. Yeah.
But I know,
think we
I'm
did.
pretty sure that there was also like a Netflix documentary about it that we
Yeah.
watched, because a lot of that stuff was like really familiar.
Those little fucking weird ass fucking Mormon spin-off cults, man, with the little child brides and shit.
And I mean, the Mormons are weird enough as it is.
Yeah. They're not that weird.
But yeah, but then like,
They're not that weird. That dude there was fucking weird.
yeah, that was crazy.
And it's just like, if you're going to have a fucking sex cult, which that's what it is. It's a sex cult
Well, yeah.
surrounded around marrying these little girls and shit. Why are you dressing them like that? You know?
So they have plausible deniability.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Like you said.
Yeah, dress them in some sexy
Look,
shit.
look how pure
Yeah,
everyone
yeah.
is.
Well, we would never.
They all look like Laura Ingalls Wilder.
Yeah, Laura Ingalls. Yeah, right.
And then meanwhile, hey, let's marry this 11-year-old.
Yeah. Here, try this one out for a while.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
Yeah.
It's fucked up.
Then they're running all the boys off because the boys don't have any mates, so they get rid of them.
It's crazy.
A lot of them end up fucking homeless.
Did we do a show about Mormons? I kind of feel like we did. I don't know if we just did a show about Mormons or if we did a show about Warren Jeffs or if we just did a show about Mormons and talked about
Well, the thing
Warren Jeffs.
is about those particular cults. You can't lump them in with mainstream Mormons. You know, the mainstream Mormons. You know, they're
I
not
know.
doing that.
No.
Those are fucking Mormon spin-off cults. They're using Mormonism as an excuse to get their hands on little girls and having bunches of wives.
Yeah.
You know,
That's all they want, really. That's
all they want.
That's the end game. It's as simple as that.
It's just that simple.
And they will construct this
Yeah.
whole elaborate facade just to get
just to get a bunch of
a
pussy.
bunch of
Yeah.
especially if it's minors. They're just
Yeah.
super into that shit.
And what's funny is like you know, people, there's some of the they leave out a lot of shit, like all the boys that are forced to run away,
yeah.
and that come to no good end because they have no education or understanding of the world. And then the girls that escape, a lot of those girls escape, and then next thing you know, they're fucking being pimped out because they can't survive, and they don't have any survival strategies. A lot of them fall into prostitution, and fucking some of the porn stars that are famous, that's where they came from. They were from Mormon communities that ran, you know. So it's weird how you're running from sexual abuse just to run into more sexual abuse, but you don't have any skills
Yeah.
and no support network.
That's what's so horrifying about it. And it's like,
Yeah.
I think that's what interests me about cults, and especially like it's so heartbreaking about people that are born in them.
Yeah,
Like you don't know any different.
yeah,
And they don't teach you anything worth a shit or anything like that. So if you do like kind of smarten up and be like, hey, I need to get the fuck out of here, this isn't right, which a
can't
lot of them
survive.
do,
yeah,
there's nowhere to go,
yeah,
which is horrible. So it's like they take all of your agency away.
yeah.
And it's just,
You don't have any survival skills.
Yeah.
You don't have any knowledge. Nothing to get a job with. So the only thing the girls can do is, and the guys too, evidently prostitution. That's where they end up.
yeah, and it's like really
Yeah.
sad. Like I said, every now and then you hear about somebody that does actually get out, and if they have a network or they have friends on the outside that will help them out, and they can actually like go back to school and shit like that. But I think that's kind of unusual.
There are state agencies sometimes that take them in, you know what I mean, and try to rehabilitate.
There is, but you can get help. It's just that
a lot of them are afraid of the government though, because they've heard nothing but
because they've heard. Well, yeah, because
they're running from the government.
If you've been told your whole life that the whole entire outside world is evil, then which that's what they do to a lot of these people. If you've heard that your whole entire life, like you can't go outside, you're terrified to go up to anybody for help or anything like that because you think they're all demons or whatever. Yeah. It's like it fucks you up, and I can't even imagine being brought up in that environment, like how long it would take you to get over that. Yeah. Every day I'm just so fucking glad I wasn't brought up like that. I'm just like, man, that would have sucked so hard.
There's a famous escort right now. She's all over X, and she ends up on YouTube doing interviews. Her name's Ayla, or Ayla, Allea, I think is how you spell it. And she looks kind of like Liv Tyler, but she's had some cosmetic surgery done. Goofy as shit, you know. She doesn't take a shower or anything. She just uses this little sponge. But she's got an anti-bathing fucking thing. She thinks it's bad for you. Just a weird chick.
That's the first time I'm hearing about that.
Yeah, and evidently dudes are paying a lot for her. She's
so it's like it's a fetish thing.
I don't think so. I think it's just what it is. You know, she's real nerdy.
Okay.
And she's got like a nerdy fan base. If I'm going to get a whore, I'm going to get a clean whore, not a dirty whore. Why would you want a fucking dirty one?
Like I said, maybe some people are into that. I mean, people like some people like to poop on each other, okay?
She doesn't look dirty, but you know what I mean? It just makes me, I would just think of that, like, then that bitch doesn't shower. She just fucking sponges off, you know? And it's like, washes her hair maybe once every few weeks or something, you know? Anyway, that's what happened to her. She came from a fundamentalist cult. She had almost no agency. And she got sick of it. She just kind of ran away. She ended up living with some other girls doing fucking stream mate. Made a shit ton of money. Got bored with that. Just started escorting. She said she liked that a lot better because she'd had like real contact with people and make friends and shit. Whatever. But she said being religious helped her do it. She said it gives you the mindset.
I could see that.
To be a hooker. Because you believe in fantasy and believe in a greater, you know, like... He says hey, you're having faith and stuff, faith that it'll all work out. And weird. And then just submitting to a higher power than yours, and that might be fucking, you know. She was working at a factory to where it started, and fucking she hated working there. She's like, man, fucking. She'd work all these fucking tremendous hours and not really get any money from it. And then she went back, got on StreamMate, figured that out. And just in an hour made what she made all fucking day working at that factory. She's just like, fuck, she never went back to that factory.
So apparently we did do a show about Mormons. I thought we had. Episode 335. Phantom went back and checked. Full Metal Nosferatu says, Jenny, I'm going to be doing some filming on Friday for a current movie, so I won't be around for sidetracks. But I have a suggestion for a movie/true crime about Adam Leroy Lane and the movie Hunting Humans. All right, so I will definitely look that up then. And we will see what we can see about that. But, yeah, CB said, yeah, my girlfriend said to me, no bath, or shower, no sex.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants to have sex with a stinky person. Well, like I said, unless that's a fetish, which, like I said, no shame or anything, but I don't really get it. I don't really get it.
SideQuest here. What's up, SideQuest?
Yeah, she was saying, like, her finding out that dinosaurs and people didn't live at the same time. Hey, now, some creationists actually think that they did still, that life was really like the Flintstones. So it's in the little creation museum and everything. The dinosaur with the saddle on it. And I know I did not make that up. There's pictures of it all over the internet. But yeah, so you can see, since we did this whole digression about cults, I can kind of see why the term cargo cult is a little bit of a misnomer, because in the Western definition of the word cult, I don't really think that these particular movements apply. These basically just seem like religions, honestly, or socio-political movements too, like in a lot of ways, which I guess is kind of sort of the same thing.
It's all in a spectrum.
Yeah, they don't seem like particularly culty to me. Like they seem kind of like early religion, like early Christianity or those kind of religions. It doesn't really seem that different to me.
Yeah.
Whereas I would classify cult as having, you know, a leader that can do no wrong and like all this, and like, you know, the outside world is evil and blah, blah, blah. And these don't really have that. So it's not exactly the same. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, like, anthropologists who study these groups, they don't usually use that terminology anymore. I don't really know. I don't know if there's any kind of terminology to replace it, but most of these, pretty much all of them, take place in the South Pacific, like Melanesia, like all there's like a bajillion little islands out there, and that's where most of them are. Like I said, there are some that are still active, but they don't have as many adherents anymore, and a lot of them have kind of either become integrated into Christianity or have kind of just become their own thing, like with their own churches and everything like that. So technically they're kind of a religion now rather than just like a little offshoot group or whatever. But like I said, I was interested in these mainly because of the, what most people think about when they think about a cargo cult. It's like there's these people and they have never seen an airplane before or anything like that. So it's like, they see these Westerners like bringing all this stuff there. They're like, wow, look at all this shit. And then they leave. And then they're like, well, maybe if we build airplanes and shit like that, like they'll bring us some shit. Like, like, you know what I mean? Like our shit will come. Which, like I said, it's a completely, obviously we know from the outside that that's not going to happen. But they didn't really know where all the shit was coming from. They didn't understand where it was coming from. So from their point of view, they were like, well, if we just do what they do, then we'll get shit too. Which, like I said, is a completely normal thing for them to think, like, given their life experience. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you can't blame them. So yeah. So I kind of feel like we'll kind of get into like a more of a list of things that cargo cults have later, but generally they do usually have kind of a charismatic leader, which is also the same thing as cult, but this is not really the same thing. Usually they have some kind of what they would call millenarianism, where there's either some great cataclysm coming, like destruction of the world type of thing, or there's some like utopia coming, or it could be cataclysm and then utopia, or there's some kind of savior figure coming. Like I said, so very much, it's kind of like evangelical Christianity, not really that different. And so there's prophets and everything like that usually have visions or dreams or something like that say, hey, this guy's coming and he's going to bring us stuff and everything like that. Now, the reason they're called cargo cults, one of the main defining characteristics, obviously, is one of the things that they believe is that some figure is going to, like some celestial figure, some god or something like that, is going to bring them a bunch of stuff, like a bunch of cargo, which is kind of, they speak like on a lot of these islands, because when I was watching this documentary, and the island that they live on is called Tana, and you could understand most of what they said. It was a pidgin, but it was mostly English. You know what I mean? It's like some of this stuff was weird and they had to have subtitles and stuff, but you could understand like most of what they were saying because it was mostly English. So their word cargo just means anything. It's usually Western goods because they had never seen them before. So all of this stuff that they didn't have on their island, and they saw this stuff coming in, and they're like, okay, well, someday this spiritual leader, this god or something like that, is going to bring us all this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And they usually had a idea that it depended on the group, because some of the groups thought, I don't think, as far as I know, I don't think any of the groups thought that, the white people that came to the island, like during World War II, and brought all this stuff, nobody thought they were gods, I don't think. Not really. We'll kind of get into that in a little bit. But one very common belief among a lot of these groups is that the goods were actually intended for them, but the white people tricked them out of them somehow.
Yeah.
Or like tricked the god into giving it to them instead of who it was supposed to go to.
Well, they see this fucking shit landing on their island and the white people unloading the planes and taking it away, and they're going, man, that was for us.
Yeah, that was our shit.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
God sent that to us.
Fucking white people.
That's not yours. Yeah, that's
Yeah, so I think that was a pretty common thing that they thought that the gods had meant for them to have this stuff.
Yeah,
that's
they're
why
cheating us.
that's why it came to the island.
Yeah.
But these sneaky ass white people came and figured out how to get it away from them. So there was that too. Yeah. And there's also a pretty common belief that you have to do something to get back into the gods' favor, so they'll bring you this shit. Usually, and like I said, there's two different camps on this. Some of them are, well, we have to go back to our traditional ways because, a lot of these islands had been, had missionaries and built churches there and tried to convert them and everything like that. So some of the groups were in opposition to that and were like, no, we need to go back to our traditional beliefs and not any of this Christian bullshit. And then the gods will favor us and will bring us stuff. But some of them thought that maybe by adopting some of the Christian stuff that maybe that would work. You know what I mean? Because it's like we're going to adopt the white people's thing and then maybe that will get it. But so there was like two different schools of thought on that. Because there's, like I said, there's a bunch of different groups. There were, like I said, there's not that many anymore, like active. But during the heyday, late like 1880s to like 1950s or so, there was actually a bunch of them. And they were all like essentially the same, but they had a lot of the details and stuff were different. So I think like during World War II, because so many people were in the South Pacific and saw this firsthand, I think anthropologists like got really, really interested in it. So there was like a whole bunch of books and papers and stuff like that like written about it in, after the war and up until the 60s. But I kind of feel like after most of the countries in Melanesia got political independence, you didn't really see it as much anymore. And anthropologists think that mostly this cargo cult phenomenon was mostly a reaction to colonialism or to having their traditional beliefs kind of shit on by missionaries, which did happen to a lot of them. So it was just like a reaction, like, we need to take back our traditional kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was that. So after they got their independence and this shit wasn't happening anymore, you didn't see it as much. There are still some around, but, they're very, very few in number.
Let me answer the question about Mormonism real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody said, people were asking, didn't Mormonism have something to do with like the occult, where it kind of came from? That was Joseph Smith, the guy who was the founder of that church. He lived in the United States during the 1800s. I think it was late 1800s, wasn't it?
Something like that.
Somewhere around the 1870s, 60s, I think. And during that time in the United States, there was like spiritual revivals happening, not only in Christianity, but also kind of like they were big into seances and fucking,
spiritualism.
Yeah, Edgar Casey and they were into like fucking Atlantis, and there was just a lot of cool shit in there. And they were also into Masonic symbolism and Masonic order type stuff, secret societies. So when the Church of Latter-day Saints was being formed, it was basically they were using everything that was kind of like cool and occult in the American culture. They were putting that in there. So it was kind of like a reboot and an expansion of the Christian universe. And now they're telling stories about what happened in ancient America, and it sounds like something out of Atlantis, It's a lot of their rituals and a lot of their temples have a big Masonic kind of feel to the way they look. One of the rituals of like bringing a priest into the priesthood involves fucking a hand coming out between a veil and shaking your hand, like the hand from the other side of the veil, with the other dimension, shaking your hand and stuff. So Latter-day Saints, man, laugh if you want. They're a successful religion and they're growing. And it's very American, really, And it has a bunch of new elements in it that some would say were kind of lacking in traditional Christianity. Put the occult stuff in there. Why not? Put in New Age shit. Put in all that stuff. Why not? because it's in the same milieu anyway. It's just a more modern version of it. So I guess you could say, yeah, it's Star Wars, but it's Disney Star Wars. Basically, is what it is. It's an expanded universe, and it's wild. They got some wild lore. Their lore is very wild.
It is pretty wild,
and it's got wild rules. Where if you're a really good follower of God, not only will you go to heaven, He'll promote you and make you a god, so you can rule over your own planet as God. That's quite a reward. And this is all shit that Smith talked about.
I want my own planet.
With
that
his
sounds
magic,
like so much work.
He had glasses and tablets. Came from the angel Moroni. He's talking to angels, very much like Muhammad. Muhammad talking to Angel Gabriel and dictating the Quran. It's like that. Matter of fact, in his time when he was alive, Smith, people call him like the American Muhammad, and he would just smile and go, "Yeah, it is kind of like that."
That's me.
That's me. Yeah. So,
but it's interesting to me. Of all the religions I've read about, of all the cults I've read about, they're not all exactly the same, but they all have a certain set of similarities. It's almost as though all human brains are kind of wired more or less the same, and under certain circumstances will come up with more or less the same shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Part of human behavior.
It is, yeah.
Part of the human internal world to try to make sense out of things.
Because I've never really seen, like, I've seen some weird-ass cults and stuff, and some of them are like, that's really weird. But it's like, when you kind of look into the backstory, you're kind of like, well, that's kind of similar to this, and that's kind of similar to that. Like, you know what I mean? They always kind of, like, feed off each other, and I kind of feel like there's only like, a certain subset of aspects that keep coming up, like, over and over. Even if it's religions that started on completely other sides of the world, like thousands of years ago when they didn't have any contact with one another. Some of them are like different on the surface, but if you kind of like dig down a little bit, they're actually like really similar.
Kind of like some of the Indian beliefs of like, Krishna. A lot of Krishna stuff sounds a lot like Jesus stories, similar.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean, and it's like, I don't even know if there was any contact between. I doubt it.
Yeah, I don't think it's a Jesus reboot. Although some people have thought that, they might be
it just
rebooted Jesus, maybe.
It could be, or it could Jesus. Be that, given, like I said, a set of circumstances, most humans will come up with that story, because that's just the way that human minds work.
Son of God is an old story. They got that goes back to fucking Osiris, Osiris becoming Horus after his death, to go to fucking heaven to rule over the kingdom of Egypt from heaven. That's what happened to Jesus, Son of God. He dies and he goes up to heaven to rule over Christians, and he's awaiting you. He'll be back during the fucking Revelation or whatever. Heracles, son of a god, born of a virgin, did all these wonderful things, died fucking getting nailed to a tree, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was a tree.
Up on some mountain, similar to Jesus, but more muscular. He was the jacked Jesus.
Jacked Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make you a shirt that says.
Yeah,
that.
jacked Jesus.
We're like, that'd be so funny. Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna get AI that shit,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna put that on a t-shirt.
And you could say that Thor is also like a jacked Jesus, one of God's sons, savior of fucking the Norse people. He could drink more than anybody. He could drink the entire ocean. If it was beer, that kind of shit.
If this ocean was beer, I would drink all of it.
He could lift the Midgard serpent,
Sure.
which was the fucking, basically the equator. All kinds of shit. Yeah. All these wild tales. It's probably a Jesus reboot.
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
But like I said, the dying and rising God is very, very. That's a very common trope.
Yeah. Going
back way pre-Christianity.
Yeah. Well, that's Osiris.
Yeah.
Osiris is the son of God. He gets killed by Set. He dies. His mother puts him back together. Can't find all of him, but except one of the eyes missing. So he uses the eye of a falcon, and he's reborn as Horus. Yeah. And goes up to heaven. And then fucking rules over Egypt from heaven. That's a dying and rising God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
High Desert said, and I think to be talking about Mormonism. Tom, that was early 1800s before the Civil War.
Was it before the Civil War? Okay.
Yeah, I had totally forgotten when it was. CB said the British were bad for gutting people back in the day when they wouldn't follow Christianity. Yeah, I mean, that was a pretty common thing back then. Papa77 says, Tom, please don't draw a line between Star Wars and Mormons. Star Wars is far more believable.
Yeah.
True.
That was fucking harsh.
CB said, but true.
Yeah.
CB said humans are the most intelligent on the planet, and we are also the most stupid on the planet. Yeah, that's the bitch of it, isn't it?
As ridiculous as a lot of people will say Latter-day Saints stories are, the canonical Christian shit is also just as ridiculous. It's all equally ridiculous.
I think it's all equally ridiculous. But like I said, it's all equally fascinating too, which is why I find, like I said, cargo cults fascinating, because all of this stuff, like I think back in the day when anthropologists were studying this stuff and it kind of got out to the public, people were like, look, isn't that adorable? Like they don't know what a plane is and they're building one out of straw and all this other kind of stuff. But when you really look into it, I was like, I think they just thought it was kind of cute, or it's like, look how backwards these people are. But the more you look into it, it's like you understand exactly like where they're coming from. And I'm like, pretty much every religion, including Christianity, kind of started about this way. Yeah. So it's like you can't really hate.
We don't really know what early Christianity was like. First 150 years, we don't really know. The Book of Marcion was the first Bible, and the Christians didn't like it. So they fucking made their own New Testament, and it was, there's been variations of what books are in the New Testament depending on what church you're in, but in the original version of Christianity, the God of Moses, Yahweh or Yahuwah, or he was a demiurge, which was a devil god. He was God and Satan combined, basically. And a lot of the early Christians didn't like it. They believed that Jesus represented was a manifestation of a more celestial God that was not part of the demiurge. That he was a good God. And then they were separating God and the devil into two different forces. But the God of the Old Testament is a gangster. You do this or I will fuck you up. Yeah. And each tribe of Israel chose a different God to worship. They were all brothers. And Yahweh chose Israel. That was one of the... And the thing is that Israel, in the context of the Old Testament, they are all Canaanite tribes. The Israelites become the Jews later on. But they're all Canaanites. And then they're going to kill other Canaanites because they're worshiping Molech and Baal, which those gods really existed back in those days. But they were just other Canaanite gods. And in the context of the Old Testament, all those gods were the sons of God. They were his sons. So Christians would say they were more like angels or demons. But it all depends on how you look at it. And then eventually Yahweh gets promoted to God. that kind of happens in Exodus, where the burning bush tells him, basically, if you look at the original Greek, oh, by the way, in the burning bush tells Moses, he says, your ancestor Abraham called me Yahweh, but I am your Baal and your fucking what else? He starts using a bunch of terminologies that say God Almighty and this and that. But he's saying, I'm the other gods. All the other gods that you believed in, I'm all of them. That's what he's saying. So the next thing you know, Yahweh is now God. He's now king of the gods because they're all the same person. They're all the same God.
Tammy is saying Hercules died by jumping on a funeral pyre after his wife poisoned him. And also said Hercules' mom was not a virgin. She was married, and Zeus came to her disguised as her husband.
I had heard the other way around, but the thing is that I know that there's a bunch of different...
Yeah, there are a bunch of different
stories, and they all contradicted each other. There's another good Hercules stories where he goes crazy, starts plowing the earth, plowing the the sands of the beach backwards, gives up his manhood, becomes a pussy, and then becomes a woman because it was too hard to be a man. And he becomes a woman, gets married, has children and everything. Then he realizes what a mistake he made because women live hard lives too. So he said, fuck that. He lived a whole life as a woman. When the kids were grown, he became a man again.
He's like, well, that sucks.
Yeah. He's like,
I was like, yeah, see, Herc, that's
the
what
moral
happened.
of the story is that it's hard to be a man, but don't think it's easy to be a woman. You might as well suck it up. That's what the story.
Quit your whining.
Be a man. Yeah. And all those Greek.
Our lives suck too.
Those Greek stories were not religion as you know them. We would call them comic books, or like this is like the DC Marvel comics. They didn't have any chronological order, and they contradicted one another. They were just a method of telling a story and teaching a lesson. But I was under the impression he died fucking tied to a tree on a hill, didn't he?
I don't remember really.
And I thought his mother was a virgin, just like Perseus' mom was a virgin. But virgin might have translated to young woman too. They did that a lot. Didn't necessarily mean she didn't have sex. Just she was a young woman.
Yeah, that was another problem. Is that sometimes the translation it didn't mean exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it didn't actually mean, hey, she never got dick before. It just means, oh, she's a young woman. You know what I mean? So, all right. So let's get back. Yeah, Tammy said I Googled. Yeah. I don't like I said, I don't know. I don't remember all this stuff. So yeah. Yeah, Perseus' mom was married as well. Yeah, I knew that Perseus, Zeus came and impregnated her. I don't remember what he was disguised, because he always like disguised himself as different things and like showed up. And but I don't remember what, but I kind of remember that story, but not completely. Hey Zach, what's going on? Yeah. All right. So let's get back to the topic at hand. So the first thing that's generally recognized as a cargo cult, even though it wasn't called that back then, that was a later term, was around 1885, and this occurred on Fiji, and it's called the Tuka movement. And just as in every other cargo cult situation, it generally happened on a remote island with kind of a tribal population when it was colonized by white people. And at this stage in Fiji, they had kind of a plantation-style economy. Obviously, this was during their colonial era. And the movement began as a sort of reaction against that. So the Tuka movement, called that because the leader of it was named Tuka, he was trying to bring his people back to a golden age, like, of their traditions and their ancestors, before all of the colonial era. So he was trying to like make all of these updates and stuff like that to their traditions to, I guess, I think a lot of it was like they wanted to not necessarily defeat the colony, but just have them leave and have their shit back. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
they're correcting me in there. Perseus' mom and fucking Hercules' mom were both married, and fucking Zeus was sticking in there. Fucking,
because he would disguise himself as things. That was kind of his whole deal.
Yeah, and some guys were saying that he'd impregnate a lot of people. Yeah, and he would do shit like disguise himself as a bull and come impregnate. They were into the fucking beast porn back then. Imagine that. The Greeks thought that a woman could not resist a bull. That was some sexy shit.
That's true. That is. No, just kidding.
Yeah, the bull rocks up and a woman just can't. I can't fucking.
I just gotta go jump on that.
This dude's projecting again. They're fucking that size.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
Dudes are seeing that shit and go, damn, I wish I had one that big. The women couldn't resist it.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, these women are fucking jumping on these bulls when we're not around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because a lot of dudes back then, like, from the stories they came up with and shit like that, I'm like, they seem completely incapable of putting themselves in the shoes of a woman.
Yeah.
They just project everything, every dumbass thing they think.
Yeah.
Women must be like that too.
They must be into that shit, yeah.
No, we're not. So, you have fun with that, though. So, but yeah, it's, like, pretty funny. So not surprisingly, the colonial overlords, if you want to call them that, not too super happy about this whole Tuca movement because they were a little bit rebellious, and so they actually exiled Tuca because they thought he was trouble. But he just kept on coming back, and they seemingly couldn't get rid of him. Thankfully, they didn't kill him, I don't think, but that's kind of... But so that was kind of like an early... That's considered like an early example of a cargo cult, even though, like I said, they didn't really call them that back then. There was also something that happened in the early 20th century that was called... And this, I believe, was the general term for it before the term cargo cult became popularized, was they would call it Velala madness. And this happened in Papua, and came about probably about 1919, and it didn't last very long. But it was pretty well documented. They said that much like it was a similar kind of movement to the Tuca movement, where it's kind of like they had the colonialist, overlords come in, and then the indigenous people would kind of try to rebel against that by going farther back into their traditions. And so you would see stuff like they'd be speaking in tongues or doing kind of like that whole body shaking thing, like as you see with like voodoo practitioners and things like that. Like you see that kind of thing. And so there was that, and they called that the Velala madness, and that was kind of like just the general term for this type of movement that happened like on these islands around this time period before cargo cult became popular. Another aspect of this one that happened on Papua was they thought, and this is very much like the later cargo cult things, that there was what they called a ghost steamer. It's like a ship. And it would come back to the island, and it would have all their dead ancestors on it, except they would be white, because that's another very common thing.
You die and you become white?
Yeah. And so the ship would come back with their dead relatives, and it would also have like all of this really cool like cargo on it, like tools and canned food and stuff like that, because they'd never seen canned food before. So it's like, so it would bring all of this stuff back, and guns, because they wanted the guns to get the white people off the island.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
To fight back.
So yes, to fight back. So that was, like I said, that's a very common aspect of cargo cultism, where they think that this thing is going to come back with their relatives and all of this stuff on it, and they can use that to like expel.
A lot of this shit is directly out of the television series V.
Yeah.
When the aliens come. The aliens come, they bring all this technology and all this weird shit. They're actually lizards, but underneath that skin, and then you need their technology to fight them off. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
same shit.
Right, like I said. There's only so many stories.
Yeah.
That humans tell. There's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do they say? What do they say in Hollywood? Like, there's only 7 plots.
Yeah.
Or something like that. I don't think that's just a Hollywood thing. I think that's just a general literature thing. There's basically only 7 plots. I don't remember what they are, but yeah. So the actual term cargo cult was actually first turned up in print in 1945 in an issue of a magazine called Pacific Islands Monthly. And it was kind of an essay or like an article where this guy was talking about World War II and all of these Christian missionaries coming to these islands, and them, between the missionaries being there and spreading their beliefs, and then also having like all the the colonial kind of authorities on there, like with their kind of thing going on, how it would affect the islanders, and that it might like result in some weird shit. I mean, it already was like resulting in weird shit, or like new belief systems kind of thing. So pretty much the standard definition of the term came about in 1957 in a book called The Trumpet Shall Sound by Peter Worsley. And this is his definition of it, and this is the standard definition of a cargo cult. Strange religious movements in the South Pacific that arose during the last few decades. In these movements, a prophet announces the imminence of the end of the world in a cataclysm which will destroy everything. Then the ancestors will return, or God, or some other liberating... what did I say? Liberating something. Power, thank you, I can't read. Will appear, bringing all the goods the people desire, and ushering in a reign of eternal bliss. The people therefore prepare themselves for the day by setting up cult organizations and by building storehouses, jetties, and so on to receive the goods known as cargo in the local pidgin English. Often also they abandon their gardens, kill off their livestock, eat all their food, and throw away their money. Now, see, some of them did use, like when the colonial authorities came in, they had, paper money, the coins, things like that. But the islanders didn't get it. They were just like, what's that? That's just fucking paper. It's not anything. And so they didn't really understand, currency in that sense. But they would kind of use it, and they kind of got that it's like, oh, you could trade it for shit and everything like that. But then when these cults or when these belief systems took hold, they were so convinced that soon their ancestors would come back with all of the shit they would ever need, that they're just like, well, fuck it, we're just going to throw all this stuff away.
Yeah.
So they would not only throw the money away, which to them was kind of worthless anyways, but they would also kill all their pigs, and just have a big feast. It's like, woo, they're coming with all the stuff, and they would just fuck their gardens up and everything like that.
Kind of like Rapture Day.
Yeah, exactly. And they were just so convinced that soon they would have all of their stuff.
Some of the Christian cults would do that. They wait on sell off all their shit and then fucking just wait or give all their shit away and wait on top of a mountain for God to come get them, and it never happened.
Yeah.
And you're fucked now. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, don't ever do that. But I mean, I can see why they thought that, but
those are the Millerites, I think, were doing that.
Yeah, like I said, we should probably do a show about those.
Yeah.
Motherfuckers at some point.
That's funny, though. You die and you become white, but it makes sense. Here you are, you're on this island, you're not white. These white people come out of the sky on airplanes, and they have fucking...
And they have just, all this
food
stuff.
and all this shit.
That you've never seen before, and they're like, what the fuck?
So, like in Christianity, you die and you're given a new body in heaven. You know what I mean? A body of fucking brilliant light. So to them, with these guys, you die, you become a white man. You fly through the sky. You have all this food.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing.
You have everything you ever need.
Yeah. Yeah, you're reborn as a white person.
Yeah.
So white people are from heaven in the thinking, from the sky.
Yeah.
That's equivalent of us saying, of a white person saying we're aliens from another planet. Extraterrestrials.
And don't think that some people haven't said, talked about some, because, some of the UFO cults, Heaven's Gate and stuff like that. They're like, that's kind of like a cargo cult, because they're thinking, hey, we're going to, sell all our shit and, buy some Nikes, and we're going to get on the thing on the Hale Bopp comet or whatever.
Yeah.
Because they think the aliens are coming to get them.
We're going to call in the fucking UFOs, and they're going to fucking land on that fucking Devil's Peak.
Kind of the same thing.
And do sign language with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, other than the very specific, hey, they're going to bring us a bunch of canned beans or whatever. Right. It's just kind of they're going to come save us. It's like I said, it's a very common, especially of people that are being oppressed in some way. It's very common for them to come up with stories of savior figures. A more powerful person is going to come and save us.
These are tribal
from this.
These are tribal island people.
Yeah,
they're not exposed to outside cultures. They see people that look different than them coming out of the sky with all these fucking riches and goods. That'd be like a white person in the middle of New York seeing a UFO coming.
Yeah.
A bunch of extraterrestrials, and they had fucking technology. You couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
It's the same fantasy.
It's exactly the same.
It's the same thing. Yeah.
That's what I mean. That's why I'm kind of glad they don't really use the term cargo cult, at least professionally anymore, because it is a little bit denigrating. Because when you think about it in those terms, it's that's exactly the same as any human would react.
That's how a white person in New York would react if they
if an alien
came.
A very technologically advanced civilization.
And then they would be projected. Oh, they've come here to help us.
Right.
They come here to give us their technology.
Right.
So we could be like them.
Yeah.
That's not what would happen. If they came here, the last thing they would do is give us any kind of technology.
They're like, you guys cannot be trusted with that.
Fuck no. Nah, you're
In
good.
fact, we're going to take your shit away because you're not ready for this.
Yeah. More likely. Y'all have become a threat. You guys are dangerous.
Yeah.
We're going to do something. We're going to destroy all electricity.
Yeah. We're
going to fuck all your electricity.
We're going to EMP your ass.
We're going to EMP the whole fucking planet.
Yeah.
And it'll set you back 500 years.
Yeah.
That'll buy us some time. Because
That's probably more likely.
Chances are in 10,000 years you'll be near our house.
We're causing too much trouble because it's like we have technology, but we're also kind of idiots. So.
Well, we're mean.
And that too. So,
thing is, though, is everything else has got to be mean. If it's survived, it's clawed its way up through the fucking Darwinian evolution. There's going to be shit out there. It's going to be very intelligent, very mean. Yes, I don't doubt it. Shit like predators and fucking xenomorphs and all that. They got... There's gonna... The universe is big enough to where there's shit like that out there if you look long enough.
Probably, yeah. I kind of feel like probably predators are out there somewhere. I mean, that doesn't sound that far-fetched to me, honestly. But yeah. So basically, like I said, it's not all cargo cults have all of these characteristics, but most of them have, a large percentage of these. So one of the main things, and like I said, this is kind of the thing that people associate with cargo cults the most, is that they usually entail the people, the adherents, in some ways like imitating the actions of, the colonial people that came and like took like, the Europeans or the whites or whatever. They're usually like imitating something like to get the same result, or so they think. They also want to have some kind of transformation. Like I said, it's very, very common for, say our ancestors will come back and they'll be white, or this will turn us white or something like that. That's another kind of common thing. Not all of them have that, but a lot of them do. They also have a thing where they think that, the indigenous people have lost either their stuff or their skills or something like that. Like they're losing them to white people because of something they did. Like they maybe offended their gods or their ancestors, and as punishment, these white people came and like, flashed all their wealth in their face or took their skills away or made it so that they couldn't do their traditional stuff anymore. So it's almost kind of like it's some kind of tradition. And so they feel like they have to fix it. Like they feel like they have to do something to appease, their ancestors or the gods or something like that is punishing them in this way. That's another pretty common thing. They usually have one chief or a very charismatic local leader. They usually have nativist or traditionalist elements. Usually, like I said, it's a reaction to colonial authorities, usually telling them they can't do their traditional things anymore, which was a very common thing that happened in the South Pacific when the Christian missionaries showed up, telling them they couldn't do, their rituals or anything. So it's usually like kind of a movement to go back to their ancestral, their traditional rituals, that kind of stuff. And they are trying to, get their independence back from the white people that colonized them. And they usually, like I said, have something to do with their ancestors coming back and bringing them stuff, bringing them cargo. And they usually hang around for a while. As I said, it's like, it seems like there were some that started in the late 19th century, and then probably the heyday right around World War II and a little bit after that. And then it kind of started to decline a little bit, but there are still some around nowadays. Now, the interesting thing about this, and I think one of the things that made the belief systems manifest in this way, is that many of these societies of Melanesia had a political system referred to as the big man political system. And basically what that entails is you get political power and prestige by gift exchange, meaning a man who has more wealth to give out to all of his people obviously is much higher in status, because more people are then in his debt, you see? So, which in a way, I mean, well, it's just like a wealth thing. You have more wealth to spread around, and so obviously everyone is like indebted to you now. And so what they see is when these foreign white people showed up and had way more shit and better shit than they had, it was almost like they were being beat at their own game. Because like I said, their whole system had to do with who has more shit. Usually on the John Frum documentary that I watched, which was on the island of Tanna, which there's more than one village like on there, but the one that they were talking about in particular on this one, their main wealth was the root that they used to make kava, which is like their alcoholic drink, which is kind of a ceremonial drink. That's kind of what gives you visions and stuff like that. Get you a little bit drunk. And pigs. Because they all raise pigs, and so pigs and the kava root thing, those were like wealth. So people that had the most of those, they were the big man, and you got to be the chief. So then suddenly, these white dudes show up with all this stuff. They have all this food, they have guns, they have jeeps, they have like all of this stuff. And so these guys are like, what the fuck, what did we do wrong? Like, we got this stuff, and this isn't even any good, like, compared to what they got. So like I said, it was almost like, it's what they call, because I was looking it up on, I was reading a paper about it, and this is what they would call value dominance. As in, they were dominated by others by their own value system. Like, because they value wealth, and here comes people that had, exponentially more wealth than they had. So they understood that, but they didn't understand why. Like, what did we do to offend
magical thinking
our gods, or what did we do to offend our ancestors that these motherfuckers show up and they have all this shit that we don't have?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
you got to rationalize it somehow.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So they think that that's why...
And if your system is magical, then you're going to have a magical reason. We angered the gods. We did something wrong. That kind of shit.
Yeah, so a lot of them did actually think that. And a couple of anthropologists have also pointed out, they said, as I kind of alluded to earlier, that their value system is really not that different. It's based on wealth. I mean, the wealth is measured with different things. Yeah. But that's one of the reasons why the Melanesians understood immediately that they were being, not shit on, but you know what I mean? That's like, well, we're being like overwhelmed by our own value system. Like, these people have all this shit. And we just have this paltry shit.
They're being foiled by their own cultural expectations of things.
Yeah.
These rich dudes showed up. They're richer than us, man. They're fucking super rich.
Yeah.
That's all they're doing.
Yeah. And they're trying to, like you said, claw back some dignity, I guess, and kind of wonder why that happened. Like, what did we do wrong? We must have done something wrong, like, to have this happen to us. So, they call it, like I said, the paper that I read, they called it relative deprivation. That's how they felt. So they started hyper-fixating on all of this cargo, all of this stuff that these people were bringing.
If I have enough cargo, I'll be richer than all the white men. I will take all their cargo.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. They don't understand sophisticated civilizations where you got to have mining, energy production, fucking banking, that's all beyond them. They don't realize that you got to start small. They're just seeing shit coming out of the sky.
They didn't really understand like the logistics of how all that stuff got manufactured and how it all got there.
Yeah, and all that stuff's coming from different places, and it's fucking, and it's all different ages. Like, some of that technology's brand new, some of that technology's been around for a century. They don't know. They just seen it all at once. It's overwhelming them.
Yeah, because to them, obviously they've only lived on this tiny in this tiny village on this tiny island, and a lot of them had never seen outsiders before, like especially during the Second World War, like when all the soldiers were in the South Pacific, and so they had never seen a lot of this stuff. They'd never seen jeeps or airplanes or anything, and so to them, it was like, well, gods must be making that.
Yeah, here's a good analogy: alien spacecraft touches down. They show you the ship. They even fucking let you have full access to it. You can't figure out how this fucker works. You can't find the engine. You can't even find where the power supply is. There's nothing about it that's recognizable. Because unbeknownst to you, most of the ship's propulsion and energy and shit is built in another dimension. We don't have other dimensions. We can't access other dimensions.
Yeah, we have them. We just can't get to them.
We just can't get to them. So the ship's there, but the engine's in another dimension. And the fucking energy's coming from another dimension. It's free energy. And you have to be able to access where energy comes from. That kind of shit.
And
we could never grasp it.
Right.
And that's what because you can't see it.
Yeah.
Well, they can't see factories.
Yeah.
They can't see mining operations. They can't see metallurgy.
Yeah, they've never.
They can't see any of that. They're just seeing the finished product.
Yeah, the end result.
And they're like,
where the fuck did that come from?
How did you make that? You know?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, they don't know. So, like I said, it's when you put it in that context, like an alien spacecraft landing, it's pretty much exactly the same. So you can't really disparage people that have never seen any of this shit before, and all the shit starts turning up on their island, and they've never seen it.
Imagine you go in that spaceship, and it's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. Go explain that to yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's how you trip out a white man of today. How's this thing bigger on the inside than it is on the outside?
How does that work? Although I will say that we have kind of the luxury of, several decades of sci-fi.
Yeah.
So we at least, even if we can't really grasp the concept, we'll be like, oh, man, yeah, I saw a movie about that, or I read a book about that. Like, even if you don't really understand how it works, like, at least you kind of, like, have the gist of it.
The challenge is that you show that it's bigger on the inside and the outside, and then you give the humans a mission. Okay, make that. You could never make that. It'd be like telling a Neanderthal to make a jet. You showed him an F-16. You say, make that. He didn't have the tools.
Yeah.
He doesn't even know what fuel is.
Yeah, there's like so many things. Well, there's so much infrastructure that has to take place before you can even start thinking about building.
How are you going to explain electrical production?
Right.
That the thing needs electricity to run.
See, that's exactly the same thing that's going on here. It's like they don't have electricity. They don't have any of the infrastructure that you need to get to that point. Yeah. So it's just because they never had to. They lived here their whole lives, and they're just farmers. You know what I mean? So they just raise pigs and chickens and shit, and that's all they've done like their whole lives. So they don't understand the concept of all these people like this whole society that has electricity and builds factories and all this other kind of shit. They don't understand that. So so like I said, a lot of this too happened in. I will say that I don't know if like how shitty the Christian missionaries were, but in the one documentary that I saw with Montana, they were talking to the chief, whose name was Isaac Wan, and he said that his grandfather, who had been the chief, before him, when the Christian missionaries were there, they were trying to get the natives on the island, to stop drinking kava, because that was their ceremonial drink, because they're like, well, it's alcoholic. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it gave them visions or whatever. So they were trying to force them to not drink that. And he also said that if they built their little churches on the island, and if you didn't go to church, they would tie you up and whip you.
Oh, shit. Weren't they nice?
So you can see why a lot of the people on that were like, fuck that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So a lot of them, some of them did go along with it, I guess, either because they were scared or maybe they liked it or whatever. But like a lot of them were kind of like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. We're going back to
What year was this again?
Well, like I said, this...
Whipping people, man.
He was talking about his grandfather's era. So we're probably talking about...
1800s, huh?
No, well, probably like early 20th century.
Early 20th century, okay.
Because like I said, Christian missionaries have been going into these islands for like a long time. And fucking around. Yeah. Because, like I said, the earliest recorded example of this was 1885 on Fiji.
Yeah.
And there were, missionaries and colonial authorities there at that time. But as it started spreading, you got more of these kind of movements. Like I said, it was kind of reaction against. But like I said, you can understand why. It's like they were kind of like being really shitty to these people. They just show up on this island that they've never been to before. Hey, you guys, knock that shit off that you've been doing for thousands of years. Yeah. You're not allowed to do that anymore. And if you still do it, we're going to beat your ass. Like, what the fuck is that about?
For some reason, that kind of reminded me of a story when I was living in Brazil. As a kid, my mother was the secretary of the consul general. She worked at the American consulate in Brazil. Because my family's got a big government fucking background and shit. My mom told me the story of what was going around in the consulate. They had a Christian missionary that was like trying to evacuate from the fucking country, and they were made a big like international fucking incident. She was out doing kind of like missionary stuff with a couple of other Christian people. I wanted to say this might have had something to do with the Peace Corps, but maybe I don't think it was Peace Corps. I think it was Christian missionaries. And she was staying with a tribe, a fucking Brazilian Indian tribe. And she was staying in one of the houses in one of the families of the tribe. And they were helping them do stuff and like fucking get water and crap like that. I don't remember all the details. This was a long time ago. This was back in the 80s. The house wasn't really a house. It's more like a fucking raised platform with a fucking thatched roof on it. It's like something you'd see out of the Amazon basin. Because it wasn't the Amazon, though. But it was a place like that in Brazil. I forgot where exactly it was. And the dudes in the house fucking raped her. And fucking... Evidently, other guys started to come in there over time. She was complained about it, but evidently nothing happened. But she had been raped by all these Indian guys. Turned out it was kind of like a cultural misunderstanding because she didn't resist. She was scared of them, you know. And then the one guy goes, "Hey man, she has sex. Have sex with her." And she was afraid to resist, I guess, or to say anything. She was, I guess it's because of her upbringing. You know what I mean? They're real like meek.
Yeah.
She was like a Christian, so
fuck that shit.
She didn't put up any resistance or anything, so they just ran through her.
I'm punching you right in the dick.
Yeah. And like they didn't have a problem with them before, because you know, fucking if you, man, fuck you, you know what I mean? Because evidently they were like well behaved,
right?
Those Indians, you know what I mean? It's just that they kind of misunderstood that it was just the Western female in religious Western female was too intimidated to fight back.
And so they thought it was okay.
They thought it was okay. Yeah. So this kind of reminded me of that. The Christian missionaries were doing to them. They were doing shit to Christian missionaries too.
Oh, I'm sure.
But it depended on when and where and what time. This was back in the 80s. But they didn't know whether or not to fucking file charges. It was like an international incident. You know? These are tribal people.
Yeah.
You're going to send them to prison? You know what I mean? It's kind of, they're not even in civilization.
Yeah, it's kind of an awkward
situation. Yeah. Let me go to the rest.
Yeah, I got to go too. But
okay.
Camp Guy said, we had small Christian churches up here in the Appalachians. They would kick you out of the church if you got a divorce. Yeah, I kind of thought that was a thing. I don't know if there's any more in the U.S. that still do that. I mean, there might be, like some real dinky, like backwards little town somewhere that still do that, because I know that there's some that are real fundamentalist. But I mean, I've never encountered that. Like I said, I wasn't raised religious. I think the only time I ever went to church in my whole life was when I was staying with cousins, and I don't even remember that much about it. Like they dragged me there one day when I was staying there over the weekend, but we never went, like, as a kid. Only time I ever went was for weddings. That was about it. But yeah, so as I mentioned, an interesting thing about it, though, was that even though a lot of these movements, like I said, were kind of like a resistance against this sort of oppressive presence of the missionaries, the colonial authorities, like telling them they couldn't do the shit that they would normally do. And they were kind of fighting back against that. But then on the other hand, they were also like imitating some of the stuff that the white people were doing. And I think that was because, as I mentioned earlier, that they seemed to have the belief that the goods that were coming to the island were meant for them, and that the white people had somehow like sneakily like got it away from them somehow because they were clever. And so they thought, well, if we imitate what they're doing, then the shit will come to us. You know what I mean? Like the way it's supposed to. Because they would do stuff like, if you see the documentary Waiting for John Frum, and these are, like I said, this was a fairly recent documentary. It was pre-2021, but it's not that old. And they showed all of their the rituals that they do. And the guys all, they have jeans on and shit, but they like take their shirts off. They all paint USA on their chests with red paint. They have quote unquote rifles, which are bamboo. Like they've made rifles out of bamboo, and the tips of them are red, like it's a bayonet. And they march in formation. They're actually really good because they practice a lot. They march in formation with the rifles, and they do the shit just like an army would do. And they raise an American flag every single day. And they wear military uniforms that they got from somewhere. Probably ones that were left there like a long time ago, or somebody brought them or something like that. And they do all this stuff, waiting for the day when the ancestors will come back and like bring them all this stuff. So they just think that they just keep like imitating like what the white people were doing. But they take it like super, super serious. Like you can see they get up every single morning and put that American flag up the flagpole. And they do it correctly. And then they have all the guys out there just like marching in formation with USA painted with the bamboo, just like their rifles or whatever. And they have like a whole routine with them and everything. It's crazy. But yeah, you don't understand why they're doing it, but it's kind of fascinating like to watch them doing that. So like I said, I kind of feel like because they thought that the stuff was meant for them, and that because they didn't understand how the stuff was manufactured, they thought that it had a supernatural origin, that like deities were making it or their ancestors were making it, depending on whatever they
couldn't imagine how it was made.
Right, exactly. So it's like, well, obviously God's made that.
Yeah.
And they thought, then it's like it should be for us, right? It's intended for us. And that the white people got it instead. So either because it was a mistake, the gods sent it to these white people by mistake, or the white people were like clever and got it away from them somehow. So they thought that it's at some future time, that the ancestors or the deities would come to them and give them all this stuff too. So over time, the shit would like evolve. Like the first instances of cargo cults, they're like, okay, the ancestors are going to come on a canoe with like some stuff on it. But then like as time went on, it would be like a steamship or like a sailboat, and then it was like a steamship, and then it would be like a big fucking military ship or whatever. And it's like, and the stuff that they brought would be different too. Like at first it was just like regular shit like steel or matches or certain kind of fabrics that they didn't have, shit like that. But then like after the war, it started to be more stuff like rifles, ammunition, canned meat. They were really interested about that. Knives, shoes, that kind of stuff. So, but it's just funny how the cargo evolved over time, and the way that it would come there evolved over time too, like as they saw, and obviously planes, like when they saw planes later, like during World War II. So yeah, because the reason why there were so many of these cults around World War II, obviously, was because all of the action that was going on in the South Pacific, and a lot of these little islands were, they were firsthand witness to like American soldiers, European soldiers, Japanese soldiers using all these islands as like staging areas. And so they would have like thousands and thousands of people showing up on these islands, planes landing there, and there's just like all this stuff. And there's like all this in the documentary I watched, there was all of this news footage from the era, and these big ships would come there, and it's like the amount of stuff they brought onto this island was crazy. Just like carts and carts, and it was just like so much stuff. So these people had never seen, a lot of them had never seen white people before. Yeah. And so the fact that they came there and then they brought all of this, they just couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe how much shit that was. And they'd never seen any of it before. Like even something like a ballpoint pen. They're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What is that? You know what I mean? Like they didn't know what it was. Yeah. Which, like I said, they didn't know, they didn't have them. You know what I mean? So, so the fact that happened, and then the interesting thing is that the Japanese, they actually kind of knew, I guess, because they live closer. They actually kind of knew about the cargo cult thing. So they played that shit like from the beginning. Like as soon as they turned up on the islands, they were just kind of like, hey, we're your ancestors, and we brought you some stuff, and we'll share it with you, and all this other kind of stuff. They were trying to like, you get them to do stuff for them. Yeah. And it's eventually the Americans and the Europeans like figured out to do that too, but the Japanese actually started doing it first. But the Japanese and the relationship between the Japanese and a lot of the islanders kind of soured over time. But I just thought it was interesting that the Japanese were aware of the cargo cult phenomenon and kind of use that to their advantage.
These were the same islanders that they showed in the Mothra movies too.
Mm.
The little miniature chicks singing Mothra and all that kind of shit. Yeah.
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 The Shaby is here, who is
What is a Shaby?
That's remember?
Okay, yeah.
That's Papa's wife.
Okay, yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
Says, "Hi guys, my first husband was a Mormon, and he was kicked out of his church when we got divorced. Granted, that was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Because Camp Guy was saying that church near where he lived, if you got kicked out if you got divorced.
Okay.
Like in the Appalachians.
Okay.
Which, like I said, maybe some fundamentalist churches still do that. I'm sure, because I know there is some that's like still super fundy. I gotta pee. All right.
Okay. We'll make the Shaby a moderator.
Is Papa a moderator?
Yeah. All right, Shaby, you are now promoted to standard moderator. So when you post, there will be a little wrench next to your name. Let's see. Giallo Fox says, can't say Japs. No, you can't say Japs. I remember when I was in high school, not in high school, in fucking like elementary school in fucking California, we would say Japs all the time. And we just thought that was just normal, you know. 'Cause we were watching Godzilla movies and fucking Mothra and shit. Fucking, I was watching, we had a channel called, fucking UHF channel 22, which was you got to be old to know what UHF channel was. And channel 22 was the local Japanese channel, because there were a lot of Japanese people in California when I was a little kid. They're probably still there. A lot of that California wine, you know what I mean? It was got so famous, you know, was and they had all these fucking kind of like Italian sounding names and whole big advertising campaigns. That was all Japanese Americans doing that in California. They were fucking had excellent fucking vineyards and winemaking skills. A lot of people don't know that. But I watched Channel 22. And that's where I was seeing all this fucking really cool Japanese stuff. That's where I first saw Getter Robo G. And that's how I got into the giant Japanese robots and buying Shogun Warriors and shit. And man, I was fucking. We had a Japanese toy store. I think it was in Whittier. My mom would go there and buy me real Japanese toys, fucking imported in. They were fucking expensive. And I'd get the fucking big Shogun Warriors, but it was from Japan. And one of the ones I had was Combattler V. Fucking, when I went to Brazil later on in my early teens and shit, I was like 14, I threw Combattler V in the fucking garbage. That thing's worth about $5,000 now, because there are very few of them in the U.S. Whoops. All that shit's worth something now. And I got my heart broken kind of later on when I found out that fucking the Mattel versions from Shogun Warriors they were like the cheap, dumbed down versions of the ones the kids got in fucking Japan. Theirs came with fucking wings and attachments and fucking bunch of different fists and shit. We got the Mattel Shogun Warriors were like the ghetto version. Hold on.
Didn't they do like a one of those Toys That Made Us shows where they kind of talked about that a little bit?
Yeah. I fucking love.
Like they didn't do a whole show about it, but they kind of talked about.
Yeah, the Japanese versions were like twice as good.
Yeah. Because they were all, like, American toy companies were always like looking overseas and being like, "Hey, that's some cool shit over there. How can we rip it off?" You know what I mean? But make it like cheaper and not as cool. That's basically what they did with those Japanese robots. Is kind of the thing. But yeah. CB said, when I was a kid, the school would make the children go to church, but it got ended in 2003 because of complaints from the parents. Yeah, that's the thing. In the U.S., technically, we're supposed to have separation of church and state. So obviously you can have private schools, which can be any religion you fucking want. Shit, even Scientology has their own schools that you can pay to send your kids to get indoctrinated. But, you know, ostensibly public schools are supposed to be religion-free. I largely found that to be the case where I went to school. They had a couple little things here and there, but it wasn't too bad. But I kind of feel like over time it does seem like the religions are starting to try and encroach on the shit. Which, like I said, you got your private schools, or you can homeschool if you want to. Like, you know what I mean? Keep your shit out of public school. That's all I'm saying. That's for everybody. Shouldn't have anything to do with religion. Like I said, if you want to raise your kid religious, just homeschool or send them to private school. Keep your shit out of public school. Mm-hmm. So yeah. So where was I? Okay. So like I said, so the thing about it was that a lot of it, when the soldiers were there and stuff like that, they would share the stuff with the people on the island, because the people were guides for them and shit like that. So they got kind of used to all this stuff, and they're like, hey, this shit's pretty cool. Like, we want some of this too. So one of the most popular, I kind of feel like the best known cargo cult, which, like I said, is still around today, but I believe there are less than 250 adherents, at least according to the documentary that I watched, which was probably like 4 or 5 years old. So there might be even less than that now. Is usually called it's John Froom. I've seen it called John Broom. It's, there's other names for it, but it's all kind of the same thing. And that happens on Tanna Island in a place called Vanuatu, which is like a whole bunch of islands. Formerly called the New Hebrides. They don't call it that anymore. And John Froom, I think it's John Frum, because they think that the name came from maybe somebody like an American soldier being there, like, hey, I'm John from wherever the fuck he's from, Chicago or whatever the hell. And so they just started calling him John Frum. I'm not really sure. That's kind of their theory anyway. But I usually see it pronounced John Froom, so I don't know if that's correct. It's F-R-U-M. I don't know. But, so this person, who's a person but also kind of like a savior figure, and he's usually shown as like an American World War II serviceman. And the story goes that many years ago, he appeared to a prophet on the island and told him a couple things. He said, one, don't do what all these white people, like, keep drinking kava, keep doing your dances and all, keep doing your rituals. Like, don't do what the Christian missionaries are making you do. Like, don't do that. Go back to your traditional shit. And two, one day I will return and bring you a bunch of cool stuff. You know what I mean? So kind of like a Jesus sort of figure is what he is. So he's like, yeah, if you follow me, eventually I'll come back and I'll bring you all this stuff. And he's usually depicted, like I said, as like a tall, and because they asked him, like, what's his name? David Attenborough. He went to Tanna, and he did a documentary about the John Frum cult. And he asked them, well, what does John Frum look like? And he said, well, he looks like you. He's a big, tall white man, except in like a military uniform. But he's also kind of a mythical figure as well. So, yeah, so John Frum told them to go back to their traditions. Because like I said, the missionaries told them to stop drinking kava, which is, okay, so they showed them making it. Like I said, it's from this root. They have like a bunch of this root on this island. What I thought they said, I'm not sure if they were super clear about this, but I thought they implied that they made it by somebody chewing all the root up and then putting it in a thing and like straining all of the pulp out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so you're drinking someone's backwash?
Yeah.
I guess.
You know about that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how they make it.
Yeah, it's got spit in it.
Yeah. But it does
ferments and it turns into...
Yeah, it's kind of like an alcoholic drink. I don't think it's like super... I mean, at least from what they were saying on there, it's not like super potent.
Nah, it's not real strong.
But it makes you drunk enough, and they use it like ceremonially.
Yeah.
Like you would use like ayahuasca or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's the women that are mostly chewing it, if I remember correctly.
Well, I saw a dude doing it, but I don't know. I don't know what that was just this one village, so I don't know. Everybody might do it different.
Nasty.
It is pretty gross,
nasty,
but
yeah.
I mean, I guess they're used to it. but yeah. But that was kind of like a big part of their rituals, was drinking this stuff and doing these like rituals with like these specific dances and all this stuff. And like I said, the missionaries were trying to get him to knock that off. But John Frum told them, no, keep doing that. Like, go back to what you were doing. And the thing about it was that the story goes, I don't know if this is true or not, but the prophet said that John Frum came to him prior to 1942 and prophesied that the Americans would come to help them. And then, indeed, the Americans did come there in 1942. And so they thought that was, that was something that he said that came true. You know what I mean? So I thought that was kind of interesting. And it's interesting, too, because the few followers that are left that were talking in this documentary, they're basically waiting for John Frum to come back and also waiting for America to come help them. They seem to know that America is a country, but they talk about America as though, kind of almost as though it's like a person.
Yeah.
Or like some kind of mythical figure that's going to come help them. And I think that the way that the chief was talking, he was kind of saying that maybe if they see this documentary, like, they'll come and help us. You know what I mean? He's like, so we put this flag. But he seemed aware of that, because one of the last things he said was, he's like, and maybe they won't see this, and maybe they will never come and help us. So he seemed like pretty, but he's like, but I have to keep telling the people that, like, it keeps, it's like it keeps their hopes up or whatever.
When he says help, it means free shit. Is what they're talking about, right? Free shit.
I'm guessing
cargo
that he wants them. Yeah, that's what they want. They want like better stuff than what they got.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they've been perfectly happy. I guess this happens a lot, but they've been perfectly happy with their life before.
Yeah.
But then, like, these people show up that have all this cool shit.
How big is this island?
I don't know. There's several villages on it, so I don't think it's tiny.
But they're not on a trade route, so they don't really get anything.
It doesn't seem like, no. I mean, they don't. Yeah, I don't really know. All these islands are kind of out in the middle of the fucking ocean.
Yeah.
So, but it's not like it's in the middle of nowhere. Like, people do go there, obviously.
They better set up a badass fucking tourist trap.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Like that's like the new vacation destination or some shit like that.
Shit.
It's a nice looking island. I thought it's really pretty.
Yeah. You'd have to put hotels on it.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Fly a lot of them girls from Dubai on over there.
I guess,
get everybody shot. But the thing
build some tacky ass resorts and casinos and shit. Please don't do that.
The problem is, those fucking the real hot resort spots are all easy to access. If it's too difficult to access, they're never going to be a hot spot. Like, we live in Florida. The hot spots around here are all down fucking on the way to Cuba, you know what I mean? Fucking, what do you call them, in the, off of the Keys, and then, what's the word I'm thinking of?
I don't know.
The Caribbean.
Yeah.
That's where they got all kinds of cool shit down in there. The Caribbean.
But it's like easy to get.
It's easy to get there. You can get on a fucking boat here, probably in fucking Tampa, or probably in Tampa, and get on a pleasure cruise for only a couple $100 and be down there.
Yeah, you can
4 or 5 days and party there, and they actually, I saw a channel. This kind of fucking heavy set black chick. It's her channel. She lives on cruise ships, because it was every time you take a cruise, they give you a bonus on the next cruise.
Okay.
And you get free food when you're staying there, and they take you all around. She realized that was cheaper than an apartment. And she was on a fixed income. So she lives on cruises.
She's gaming the system.
Lives on cruises. Yeah, games assist. I
respect that game.
Yeah, it's only like fucking $1,500 a month. And she's on these fucking cruises eating and fucking partying.
No bills.
Getting comps and shit. No bills, nothing.
Don't got to pay electricity.
She says it has some downsides, though.
Well, sure.
Because you get real sick of it. You only have your room, and you go on the ship, and the ship gets fucking boring, and you go on another ship, and you're never really like tied down to one place. You're constantly like living out of a hotel.
Plus, it'd be like Boomer Central.
Yeah, she says the people are kind of boring. Now, if it was all a bunch of hotties in their 30s and shit fucking each other and everything, it'd be fucking great. 20s and 30s and shit. No, you're talking about fucking old people.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
We had to go on one of them.
What, a
cruise? We had to go on a cruise.
I don't know, man.
We'll fucking shoot some porn on it.
Okay. I don't want to be out in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, I don't really. I actually do not like the fucking water.
I don't either.
If anything goes wrong, you're fucked.
Yeah, you know what's in that water? Sharks. That's what.
Yeah.
No thanks.
They rarely sink, though.
Yeah, I don't know.
They rarely sink.
I don't know.
That's a big ship,
It is. It's like, you'd probably be all right.
They're fucking huge.
They are.
And they're in constant contact, and that's not remote waters. That's close.
It's true, yeah. That's just I don't know. I mean, obviously, I don't want to go on some ship like crossing the fucking Atlantic, but yeah, those Caribbean ones and stuff.
Yeah,
they're
it's just
like
right
super,
here.
It's
It's
just
local.
right there. That's like super short.
Yeah. And you see, we could do the show from the ship, probably.
I'll think about it.
We could probably do the show from the ship.
I'll think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never been on one. I never really, like I said, it's
Never thought about it, did you?
No, not really thought about it. I can kind of see like why. Yeah, I mean, it probably would be cheaper than an apartment. It's, I mean, depending on where you live, it might be cheaper because
if all this shit fucking financially blew up and shit, and I'm on fixed income and shit, you know what I mean? I get my federal money. You got your job. Your job is fucking online. If we lost all this shit, we could walk away and still fucking do really fucking good. If we just had to just live in hotels or living in fucking ships. The problem is the cats.
Yeah, because I'm not leaving kitties behind.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. Pookie be like, where the fuck did they go?
Oh my god! Don't say that. That makes me so sad. I would never. Yeah. I would never leave these kitties. Mm-hmm. They're like our children. They are our children. We don't have children.
Raise them.
Yeah, we don't have children. We have kitties. And like I said, and I'm the same way. I would never ever fucking leave them. Yeah. It never would occur to me to leave them anywhere. Get shit. I leave the house for a couple hours, and I'm just like, are they okay? Yeah. And as soon as I come home, I'm like, where are they at?
We go to Mexico City. We'd be rich in Mexico City. Same with Russia. We'd be real rich in Russia.
I mean,
or some of the other.
Mexico's a lot closer.
Mexico's a lot closer. Mexico's probably more fun.
Probably, yeah.
Better goth scene.
Yeah, they have a really good goth scene in Mexico.
People don't realize Mexico's fucking.
They have an excellent.
They got a tight goth scene. It's fucking good. It's
all
Aztec and shit. Dia de los Muertos and shit.
Shops and clubs and all kind of cool shit. A lot of good bands from there.
Yeah.
All kind of shit.
Yeah, they got a good fucking resort area too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't be averse, like I said.
Yeah.
Like I said, we've thought about retiring overseas.
Eventually. Sell this place off. And
I don't know where, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens in the future. Like I said, gotta get the fuck out of here at some point. But yeah, so according to this prophet, like I said, I don't know if this was something they came up with afterward, and they're like, oh my god, I totally predicted that. But yeah, he said, John Froome came to me in a vision and said that the Americans were going to come in 1942, and indeed they did. So then everybody's like, oh my god, we got to get all on board with this situation. And they started they even have John Froome Day. They still celebrate it. It's February 15th. So every year they get out, they have all these dances, they practice them and everything like that, and like all the other villages come and see it. It's a whole big thing. So yeah, and they, like I said, they do the whole marching thing with the bamboo that look like rifles and all that stuff. And in the 90s, there were still quite a few. There was probably like 5,000-ish followers, but now it's probably down to, like I said, according to that documentary, I think they said it was about 250 of them left. But it's not the only cult, because there's another one on the same island, but like a different village. And it's very similar, but it's actually called Tom Navy. That's their name of their figure. So it's not John Froome. It's Tom Navy. But it's the same, pretty similar kind of thing. You know what I mean? So there's that. Now, interestingly, okay, so, and this is the thing that always kind of fascinated me the most, is that obviously after World War II ended, and all the soldiers left, and they took all their shit with them, the people that started the cults, or kind of started, the cult started getting like more and more whatever, they were kind of like, okay, well, what we need to do, because everybody left, is we need to imitate what they were doing to get the cargo to come back. So on the islands, they started building airstrips. They started building airplanes, but like out of straw. They would carve headphones out of wood, and then they built, like towers, like plane towers and stuff, like next to the airstrip, and then they would sit in them with the wooden things on their ears, like waiting for a plane to land, thinking if they built all this stuff,
you're attracting them
like it would attract it.
That's what a UFO cult does.
That's what I mean. It's kind of like the same kind of mindset.
The Raelians and shit, putting fucking UFOs and fucking geometrical patterns. The fucking Scientologists were doing that.
Yeah.
Putting geometrical patterns in the ground. Fucking the symbol of the Cools fucking cigarette symbol to try to call L. Ron Hubbard back. Ain't that some shit?
Yeah, well, like I said, it's kind of like magical thinking. And that's not to denigrate, because a lot of people have that.
Yeah.
Even in so-called civilized society, people think, oh, well, I mean, superstition is exactly that.
Yeah.
If I do X, Y, Z, then this will happen.
Yeah.
You know, or if I, you know, the whole concept of like walking under a ladder or, you know, doing this, that, or something bad will happen. It's the same kind of thing. You think that you thinking things or doing certain rituals will have a certain result, whether good or bad. And that's exactly what they're doing.
And that even in advanced developed countries, you fucking hear that shit. Like China's filled with that. They think that if a woman's on the rag and she swims, that it could hurt her. It'll make her sick. And these are like educated people, and they'll drink hot water for a bunch of health reasons. They'll get hot water right out of tap, not out of tap, but you know, I think we would use the hot water to make tea. Yeah. They'll just drink that shit. And they have all kinds of weird medicinal reasons for that. They have a lot of shit like that in China. There's no science behind it at all.
No, there's not.
But you see, here's another thing. Americans do that too.
Well, like I said, everyone does. It's very common.
I remember that if you got wet in the rain, people would say you would catch cold. A cold is a virus. It has nothing to do with being rained on or wet.
Or cold.
I'd be in the army, getting rained on constantly, just soaked to the fucking bone. Never catch a cold. Because a cold is a fucking virus.
You get a cold from being breathed on by
another person.
By another person that has a cold.
That's nothing
pretty
to do with
much
being rained on. But China's filled with that kind of thinking. And so it's not just people on islands.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what I you know, I would hope that I'm not like teasing these people or saying it's like, oh, look how backwards they are, because it's like a lot of Americans have same kind of shit, and we're like supposedly super technologically advanced. I mean, the shit you were saying about like tampons and stuff like that, I'm like, did you know that like an alarming percentage of dudes actually don't know that women don't pee out of their vagina?
Yeah, they don't realize there's urethra there.
That there's 3 holes.
3 holes, yeah. Never realize it.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't have anything to do. It didn't have anything to do with fucking tampons, though. The Chinese believe that if a woman is on the rag and she swims, it could hurt her.
Right.
That she could get sick. And if you've, the only thing that was kind of like that is that I remember when I was a kid, old people would say, "Oh, you can't swim. You just ate."
Right.
Because if you ate and swam,
you get a cramp.
You'll get cramps and you'll throw up and you could drown.
Yeah. I heard that as a kid.
Ridiculous.
Too. No, I never bought that.
No.
Because I used to swim all the time.
Yeah.
I was always swimming. My hair turned green from swimming pool chlorine.
Chlorine.
That's how much I swam as a kid.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have a swimming pool because we were poor, but we lived in an apartment complex that had.
Well, that's another thing I'm gonna bring up about China, because I've been studying China. They almost none of them can swim. So that they think swimming is dangerous. So therefore, stay away from the water. Don't even learn to swim. It's too dangerous. So if you fall in the water, you fucking drowned. Backwards thinking.
Yeah, it's actually much better.
Much better to learn to swim when you're a baby.
I mean, yeah, that's why they have baby swimming classes now. It's like, so if the kid falls in the pool, they know how to get themselves out.
But you got these people who are supposedly a developed society who are saying, I can't teach my baby how to swim. Swim is dangerous. Everybody drowns. Well, put the baby in the water, teach the baby how to swim.
Yeah.
Oh, no, because if the baby can swim, then they'll drown. Because they'll be in the water swimming, and you drown. Just stupid. Stupid thinking. It's circular thinking.
People that can swim can drown. It's possible.
But if you can swim, then you can avoid drowning.
Then, yeah, largely.
Which that's a thought. They don't think that way. They can't. Because they don't swim, they can't think that way. If they could swim, then they would know what you were talking about.
I don't even remember when I learned to swim. It must have been when I was real little.
Yeah, we learned to swim when we were little.
I mean, I must have been real little.
That's a Southern Anglo-American thing. when we were babies, our parents made sure we could swim. And
Yeah,
I was so young, I don't remember swimming.
I must have learned as a baby because I don't remember learning.
I don't ever remember learning. But they put us in the water, teach us, and a baby will figure out how to swim on its own.
Because we never had a pool, but we always lived somewhere that had a pool, or our relatives had pools, or we went to springs, Alexander Springs, Blue Springs, and you can swim in there.
Yeah, when you get into the Army here in the U.S., you find out that a lot of black guys can't swim, and it's because a lot of them fucking were from kind of urbanized areas, and they didn't have access to bodies of water and pools and shit like that. So their parents
never learned.
They never learned.
It
now,
happens.
Mississippi, where I'm from, my family's from, in the country, black people know how to swim because they're out around creeks and fucking ponds and shit, and they're just like they're rednecks. They're just a different color redneck. Same thing. They can swim.
I used to go swim at Alexander Springs.
Yeah.
With the alligators.
Yeah.
Well, the alligators were over there. I was like, I have to keep watching. I'm like making sure they were staying over there.
When I got in the Army, it was amazing that fucking I'm in the infantry and shit, and they can't swim. How could you not? Because we take it for granted. White people take it for granted in the United States that you know how to swim. A lot of black people, a lot of city people don't know how to swim. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I guess they just were never around it, so they just never learned.
Yeah, their parents never really even thought of it.
Yeah.
They're not going to the pool or anything. They're not going to the beach.
Oh, that was another thing. Yeah, my mom took us to the beach all the time.
Going to the beach,
when I was a kid. So I swam in the ocean, but I was scared of sharks even back then. So I never went out like super deep.
I was either at the beach or with my dad out on a fucking pond, fucking fishing, or down in creeks, swimming, going through the fucking rapids out in California, the fucking Sierra Nevada mountains, up in Sequoia, redwood forest. So just. White people like nature. I've heard fucking black people go, man, these white people they like nature. They'll put backpacks on, that's kind of an alien concept for
like what the fuck
for a lot of black people. They're like, why are they out in the wild? There's no lights out there, no electricity, nothing. It's just part of our culture, and we take it for granted that other people are like that. The Chinese don't do that. They don't fucking camp. Even the Koreans. When I lived in Korea, the Koreans didn't camp. Now you had military guys. They kind of camped. But it's roughing it. There's a channel that shows in Korea showing a Korean girl who camps. And most of the camps are more like what we would call a park. There's fucking buildings all around it and shit. And there's a raised platform
like
and power, and you put
bathrooms.
So she just makes a fucking a tent in the middle of a fucking public park.
That's glamping.
Yeah. What kind of shit is that? Yeah. That's not camping. But she does actually camp though. She'll go to remote areas too. She just does it all. She's got pretty good survival skills.
I mean, we used to go camping a lot as a kid. We didn't go like anywhere remote. It was usually just kind of like wooded campgrounds with like a spring or a lake or something like that. We did that a lot.
I'm an expert backpacker. I'm fucking airborne infantry, man. I'm fucking carrying a rucksack around, fucking living out of a ruck and living partially up, fucking off the land too if we have to. Especially when I was in a recon unit. Even though they did feed us, we knew ways of surviving if MREs didn't appear, like if you were stranded or you lost chopper support and shit. A lot of times we just go without food too, but I'm confident in my skills. If I got all my equipment, I fucking live like a king in the field. The problem is, it's like in Naked and Afraid in that program where they take everything from you. You didn't have shoes. That's a lot harder.
Well, yeah, that's why that's a show.
Yeah.
If they let you take all the cool shit, it wouldn't be interesting to watch. So like, oh, look at them just camping like a regular ass person.
Yeah, having a sleeping bag, a poncho, bungee cord to make a tent, fucking a rucksack, fucking knives, fucking fire starting equipment, fucking shoes or boots and clothes and shit.
I kind of feel like shoes are really underrated. Every time I watch Naked and Afraid, I'm like, make shoes.
Yeah, that's
day one. It seems like it doesn't even seem like something you would think of.
Yeah,
but you'll thank me.
Yeah. But fucking having all that shit is just puts you ahead light years, Makes your stay out in the fucking field a lot easier.
Tammy says, my mother-in-law believes if a woman goes into the garden during her time of the month, it will kill the plants. I've heard that one before. I don't know anybody that thinks that, but I have heard that.
That's weird. Just the smell?
Because they think like women on their period have cooties, or like it's like some kind of miasma that we're like putting
radiation.
It's pussy radiation.
Pussy radiation. It comes out. It's radioactive.
Oh my god! I want to start a band called Pussy Radiation.
I come up with the fucking best terminology.
You do come up with good band names.
Yeah. Pussy radiation.
It's like my band Pussy Radiation can open for your band Good Dick Day.
It does exist. Pussy Radiation does exist. Sometimes a woman will come around like that, and I get the draw on. I can feel the waves of it. Pussy waves.
Pussy waves.
Yeah, you can feel it sometimes. You can feel it sometimes. Yeah.
I kind of feel like that kind of sound.
Yeah, pussy waves.
I don't know how strong my pussy waves are.
It's all situational.
I haven't killed any plants that I know of, but you know what I mean. I may have, but I just didn't pay attention.
Good Dick Day.
They did, yeah. That'll be the double bill.
Yeah, some people that are not regulars don't know what the fuck we're talking about. A couple of days back, I walked in here fucking. I said, "Man, I'm having a good dick day." I fucking pulled the shit out. And she was like, "Yeah, you are." Sometimes you can have a good dick day.
Yeah, I'm in here in my office working, and he just comes in. He's like, "I got to show you this. I got to show you."
It was like photo ready. It was like ready.
It's like I'm having a good dick day.
Yeah, it's like having a good hair day.
And I was like, man, that'd be.
And she was photogenic. I should have fucking taken out your camera. You should have.
I know. I don't know why it's like. Why I don't know why you don't.
It doesn't come.
Yeah. I keep telling you. To take pictures.
Yeah.
Because you got to think, but you never do. He never takes a picture. But yeah, I don't understand. Like
very rarely do I take it. One time I snapped a picture and sent it to fucking Toby.
Oh, did you really?
Years ago, don't you remember? That was probably about fucking 8 years ago, probably.
Oh, that's right. You showed me.
I showed you. Fucking snapped a picture of that shit. Sent it to Toby. He goes, "You got a nice cock, man."
Yeah, that sounds like some shit he would say. He's just all like fucking chill about it. Yeah, nice cock.
Oh, fucking funny, man.
But yeah, people have like.
Toby's my leather daddy friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my gay friend.
We have all kind of we saw him Saturday night, and wow, he had a really shiny outfit on.
Yeah, he was on that blue fucking plastic leather.
It was like blue plastic leather.
And it was metallic.
Yeah, like metallic.
Yeah.
It looked really good.
It was pearlescent.
Yeah,
blue pearlescent like PVC
vest or something.
Yeah, and black.
Yeah,
it looks cool. Type deal.
It looked cool.
You got a beard kind of like mine. It's a little bit longer.
Is Tom having a good dick day?
No, not right now. Not
right now. Like today.
It's just normal.
Today I don't know because I got up before you did, and you didn't come in and show me, so I guess not.
I mean, you got.
So I guess not. It's just an average dick day. Yeah, I'm guessing. Yesterday was a good dick day though. But yeah, like people have like really weird beliefs about periods. I think that's really funny. I don't know. It's very funny to me, like how uncomfortable menstruation seems to make people, seems to make dudes. That's why I always kind of like talk about it, because it's people like they get all grossed out by it. Thankfully, I don't have to deal with that shit anymore because I'm too fucking old. But yeah, so just the whole idea of all the work that went into these guys on this island, and ladies too, they also participated, building all of this stuff. Like they would build runways, they built airplanes, they built like towers, like communication towers. They made headphones that didn't work. They made like radios, like they carved radios out of wood. Like anything that looked like stuff that had been there before, and they set it all up in the same way. Then they would wear the uniforms and they would march and all this other stuff and put the flag up, and in the hopes that one day the cargo would return. And I don't know, I just always thought that was like so, there's something like really endearing about it. I don't know, I just thought it was like really endearing. It's sympathetic magic is what it is. Like if I do this thing that in real life doesn't have anything to do with it, like it'll bring me this thing. You know what I mean? So, and obviously the airplanes that they made like didn't fly, but they thought, oh, well, if we build this airplane, then they'll get the idea. It's like, oh, they built us an airplane, so we're going to have an actual airplane that'll bring you all this stuff. So, as I said, there are still some of these around, but there's not, that many adherents anymore. As I mentioned, there's another one that's on the same island, which is very similar to the John Frum cult, but is called Tom Navy. One of the funniest ones, probably, is the cargo cult that worships Prince Philip, who is dead now, but he died a few years back. But yeah, there's a whole Prince Philip movement, and this is on the same island, Tana. It's like I said, it's not a small island. There's a bunch of villages. So yeah, there was So there was a story among the villagers that there was a mountain spirit who had a son, and the son went to some unspecified distant land and married a very powerful woman. And the story went that one day this son would come back, and in some versions of the story, he's actually John Frum's brother, right? So it's all kind of like really, because like I said, it's the same island, but it's like a different village. So when Queen Elizabeth came to the island and like to visit troops or whatever, and they saw the veneration that all the soldiers, like British soldiers and stuff, gave to her, they surmised that her husband, Prince Philip, her, royal consort or whatever, must be this son from this legend. Like, that's him. Like, he's the one that married the powerful woman and then came back, you know what I mean? This white dude. And he's like, distant land. That must mean the UK. That's England. So, they're not really sure, like, exactly when this whole belief took root. They think it was sometime in the 50s, maybe. And then, because, like I said, Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip did actually come to the island in 1974, and they actually got to, so the villagers actually got to see him. Like, he didn't really, I think he met some of them like later on, so they did actually go there a few times. I think when they first went there in the 70s, Prince Philip did not know that a whole cult had developed like around him, that they thought that he was this kind of savior figure. He was actually told about it later by like a guy that kind of went back and forth there, that like kind of worked there. And he's like, why don't you send them a picture of you? And so he signed one, like he did like an autographed photo and sent it to them. And they sent him a pig killing club, which is called a nal nal. Like they sent him, that's like a big thing that they send to like luminaries and stuff. So they sent him one, and then they asked, hey, can we have a picture of you holding it? So he took a picture with him holding this club, and then signed it, and then sent it back. And then he sent another picture of himself in 2000. So the chief actually had these pictures, and they were like super venerated, because they thought this guy was like a savior, you know what I mean? And it's kind of hilarious because Prince Philip, isn't he the one that would always say those stupid fucking things all the time? Like, didn't he one time say it's like he didn't, like, British people shouldn't stay in China too long or their eyes will get all slitty or some shit? He always said stupid shit like that.
I don't know. I don't remember that.
Yeah,
the guy that said that he wanted to come back as a virus and wipe out everybody, all life on the planet or something.
I don't think he said that. Well, did he?
One
Maybe.
of those guys did.
He said dumb shit like that all the time.
Yeah,
that sounds like some dumb shit he would say.
Yeah.
He just said stupid, clueless shit all the time.
There was some British guy.
I was like, inbreeding.
He's from the UK. One of them. He was old when he said it. I think he said it maybe in the 2000s. He said, "Well, when I come back, I'm going to come back as a deadly virus and wipe out humanity." That's what he said.
That's a very weird thing to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just remember. I don't remember like all the shit that he said, but I know that Prince Philip was like renowned for saying like really stupid, crazy, out there shit like all the time. Like he was completely clueless and like completely out of it, and he would just say like really random, really weird, racist shit, like really shit that was like completely out of touch kind of shit.
Well, people like that are out of touch, especially if they're in some
royal
family. They don't
interact with regular people ever.
Nobody tells them no, so they can't. They don't know how to act.
Yeah.
Evidently, they have no social skills.
Yeah, I can see that, and like I said, probably all the inbreeding.
They couldn't get. What's that? Inbreeding probably doesn't help.
All the inbreeding doesn't help.
I mean, they had that one up there on fucking Epstein's Island all the time. He got kicked out. They kind of kicked his ass out of the royal family. I forgot which prince it was, but fucking.
Was it Andrew?
Yeah, he was out there making out with like a fucking 16-year-old out on a fucking beach.
I think that might have been Prince Andrew.
Yeah, I think it was Andrew. He was a fucking poon hound. He liked really young Floridian girls. He's a hoe, rich man hoe.
Yeah, well, if you have all
that's okay, man. You can be a man hoe, but make sure that bitch is legal. It's not somebody's daughter from a trailer park, you know. And
well, make sure they're legal and also that they want to do shit with you.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
There's also that.
Yeah. But I think those girls kind of did. But they're just too young to make any kind of decisions for themselves, and I don't know how much they were paying them and stuff. But according to one witness, they were just fucking like furiously making out. The girl was into it. Who knows, man? They might see stars in their eyes, you know what I mean? He's a prince. Like that means anything, you know?
Yeah, I'm like, they take a shit just like everybody else. What? Don't get excited.
Fuck that dude. They're rich.
I'm not into this whole hierarchical.
Yeah.
I'm like, look, you're just a fucking person.
And I don't
just
think
like everyone else is.
I don't know how rich those guys are. They may not be all that rich, say, compared to fucking Saudi oil money. Probably not that rich.
But you have all that money, people let you get away with shit. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Well, and also all the political power they have in the UK. Fucking Jimmy Savile was running around with one of them.
Yeah.
And they say that, you know, that dude knew what he was doing. And that he was hiding under the fucking shadow of some of the people in that royal family, getting away with shit, going to fucking...
He did get away with shit a long time.
Got away with all kinds of shit. Savile was going to
We did a show about him a while back.
Going to orphanages to get laid. That's some dirty shit there, man.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really get much lower than that, to be honest.
Oh, that's some dirty shit.
Because, I mean, creepy dudes like that, they just love vulnerable.
Not picking on the British, man. That kind of shit was happening here, too.
It happens here, too.
There was the Catholic...
People are kind of the worst
There was
everywhere.
a Catholic fucking school, girls' school, that was corrupt as shit, and they were pimping the girls out to the cops and the local politicians. And one of the nuns found out about it, and she was going to tell, and they killed her. Remember that?
Yeah, I've been wanting to do a show about that, and it was...
we got to do a show about that.
I think it was Baltimore.
Baltimore, yeah.
I think. That was Kathy Stesnick.
Yeah.
They did a whole, like, a Netflix series called The Keepers.
Yeah.
Which I think most people have probably seen. It was very popular.
They had these troubled girls, and they'd fucking tell them what sluts they were and shit like that, and then go pimp them out to the cops, and they'd bring them back, tell them that they were sluts again, don't tell anybody type of deal. Fucking nasty. Lesbian fucking nuns fucking them up. Having sex with them and shit. And fucking priests were coming to have sex with them. And it was a Catholic girls' school for wayward girls.
Yeah.
I think it might have been state funded.
I don't really remember, but I remember it was one guy that was doing a lot of the stuff, but he was bringing in other people.
And they were pimping them out to the cops. That's the weirdest thing, man. And this was 70s, wasn't it? 60s?
Might have been 60s and 70s. I think there was a couple of other murders that they think might have been related.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not all cool everywhere, man. You know, fucking no society's immune to these kind of fucking abuses.
Well, I mean, there's
when you have religion and power and fucking social power, all kinds of abuses could happen.
Like I said, this is why I'm not a fan of any kind of like top-down, any kind of authoritarian, hierarchical kind of system, is because you get shit like this. The second you think you're above someone else, that's the same time as you think, well, I can abuse that person.
And it's unfucking American. If you go back to the 1700s and the fucking the people that were founded the U.S. as a republic were saying the same thing. You can't have anything centralized. They warned us over and over again. What happened to America? It became what it hated the most. It became an empire like the British Empire. It became fucking stratified in a class-based society. It's just that it had a real good propaganda. It can lie to the people, make them think that they're free and that fucking that equality exists. No, they fucking abuse the system, man. You know. Hopefully that shit's gonna change, you know. Fucking, they're tearing this fucking place apart. Just part of the evolution of societies. The older they get, the more corrupt they get.
Yeah, so the whole Prince Philip thing. Like I said, Prince Philip died in 2018 or something like that, right? So I kind of feel like after he died, somebody went and told the people on the island that he had died. And so they think, and I don't know if this has happened yet, but they thought that Prince Philip's status would be transferred to Charles III, who then was Prince of Wales, obviously, but now he's the king. So they think that now he's going to be like the savior figure. But they had like a whole funeral for him. They had like, they raised the Union Jack on the thing and like, you know, had a big feast with all the pigs and everything like that. So it's like they were taking this very seriously, but I thought that was like kind of like super funny, you know what I mean? That they had this whole, I mean, it's funny to us, you know what I mean? Because it's like we know what a fuckhead that dude is, but it's just kind of like, but it's just kind of like the fact that there's like a whole bunch of people like worshiping him like he's some kind of weird Jesus figure is like very strange. But I don't know. I just
Stranger
think
things have happened.
True.
In Mississippi, fucking Elvis was sometimes
2021. Yeah, he died in 2020.
Elvis was sometimes confused with Jesus in the boomer crowd. Fucking so Elvis was deified in Mississippi. I remember it as a kid.
I always think that's so funny.
It had pictures of Jesus up, fucking, and then right next to him they had pictures of Elvis. And you looked at the positions, the poses and shit, they were very similar. Yeah. You'd have Elvis and shit, fucking statues of Elvis along the fucking tops of the mantles, fireplaces.
That's so funny to me how they deify like an actual person who actually existed.
Yeah.
And like not even that long after he died. It wasn't like, centuries later where you could think, oh, okay, like they've been mythologized or whatever.
I'd be like 11, 12, 13 and have other fucking
like
kids.
That dude was literally alive in my lifetime.
Yeah. I'd be like 11, 12, 13 and have kids that I was growing up with who were the same age in Mississippi. I was just visiting for the summers most of the time, telling me that Jesus could stop the rain.
Or Elvis could stop the rain.
Excuse me, that Elvis could stop the rain just with a word. And they had all these weird fucking things that they believed about him. And it was based upon Elvis mythology, based on things his entourage said about him. But they took that shit very seriously.
Man,
looking back on it, it's fucking funny, but
it is funny, but it's just kind of
and those same kids today, they're my age, they would think it was funny too. But back then, when you were before the internet, you were very like low information. It's easy to get confused over what. I mean, shit, we thought fucking kung fu was real.
Sure.
That maybe you could throw a chi ball. Fucking Hadouken.
I'm doing it right now. Is it working?
Yeah.
I just killed somebody out there.
Yeah.
If you die like 40 years from now, I did that shit just now.
Yeah, like can Chinese kung fu practitioners can they fly? Because they're showing that in the
yeah. It's like, no, that's called a wire.
Yeah. If they're jumping down, they're just playing it in reverse. It looks like they're jumping back up. Well, that too. Yeah.
But like, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. They're all going around on wires and stuff like that. That was like a big thing. That was just like a trope in that kind of movie.
Yeah, well, they're actually, it's not just that movie. It's ancient Chinese fucking legend. Yeah. That they were so powerful in their chi that they could fly. They're talking about Jedi, basically. Yeah. Same thing. That they So it's not something those films made up. That was already in Chinese culture. It wasn't kung fu dudes that were doing it, though. It was guys with swords. It was Chinese swords masters. Yeah. Could fly, basically.
It's just funny. Mm-hmm. Like I said, when you have limited information, I kind of feel like the human brain's first inclination is to whip up a narrative. Yeah. About this limited information, where you're filling in the information that you don't know, and you're perhaps exaggerating stuff that you think is cool. So, like I said, which kind of ties into what we're talking about today, because, as I said, I kind of feel like people got fascinated with and maybe I did too, like when I was a kid, by being like, man, that isn't that cute that they're like, carving fucking radios out of wood and shit like that, because they don't understand what a radio is or what its function is. Like they didn't understand, that you have to call somebody to come with the stuff and somebody has to make all that stuff and there's all these logistics involved, and they didn't know any of that. So it's like, to them, it just seemed like, hey, if we just do the same shit they do, we'll just raise this flag up on the pole, we'll put on the uniforms, we'll march with these sticks that kind of look like rifles, we'll build an airstrip, we'll do all this other stuff, then the same shit will happen. Because, like I said, they have limited information. They're not dumb. They just have limited information. So it's like they're just working with what they got. And it kind of ties in with belief systems that they already had about ancestors, bringing them things and bringing them visions and things like that. So it just kind of like tied all together. And I think like some of the Christian missionary shit was like with the messianic kind of figure was kind of thrown in there as well.
Big Joe Grizzly says that Kung Fu is real and it's old. Yeah, but the claims of Kung Fu are not real. The claims in Kung Fu was that you could actually beat someone's ass in a damn near fucking supernatural way. It was disproven fucking 15 years ago. The Chinese guy who actually studied MMA went and challenged every one of the Chinese Kung Fu masters that talked all kinds of shit, and he beat the shit out of them. No, Kung Fu is not real. You're going to get your ass kicked if you go into a real fight with Kung Fu. And then what was funny is Chinese society turned against that guy for disgracing their traditions and shit like that.
Well, yeah, I can see that.
That's what there was a huge backlash, but he was just like, that's not fighting.
Yeah, which like
MMA
I said,
is fighting.
If you just want to do it as like an art form or something like that, like that's something different. But don't say, oh, you can kill people by touching them.
Yeah, and all this fucking weird, fucking fast blows.
That's
and all
not going to work.
Bruce Lee was a good martial artist. He could whip a fucking untrained dude's ass pretty easily. If you put Bruce Lee in fucking MMA, he'd get his ass kicked. Badly. But Bruce was no pussy. If you showed Bruce MMA, he'd go, oh, well, I need to put on about 30 pounds. And I need to learn the ground game.
Well, that's kind of what he wanted to do.
That's what he was like. That's what he was talking about.
Yeah.
We need a new system of fighting that is not limited. He's talking about MMA.
Yeah. He would have loved that shit.
He would have loved it. He'd have been good. But he'd have to retrain for it. Put on more weight, get a ground game, and he'd have been good. He was fast. It's a good wrestler.
Yeah, I think, well, that's the thing. I think he would have understood that
he would have understood exactly what he was seeing.
That I need to bulk up some. And because a lot of those dudes are a lot bigger than him.
Yeah.
Because he was very muscular, but he was very, very lean, and he was kind of small. So anybody that's bigger than you has an advantage, even if they're not trained. Not always. I mean, you can still sometimes kick their ass, but anybody that outweighs you or is taller than you by a significant margin, they have a significant advantage, no matter how in shape you think you are. So there's that. But yeah, so I don't know. Like I said, I kind of feel like the thing about it, like I said, anthropologists tend not to use the term cargo cult anymore because, like I said, it's a little bit denigrating, and technically they're not really cults. They're just kind of belief systems, socio-political systems that arose because of the circumstances of the times and have kind of persisted over the decades, even though they're not as, powerful as they once were. So I can see why they don't really want to use that, because like I said, particularly in Western society, cult has a very negative connotation, and they don't really have anything in common with what we would consider like a bad cult or anything like that. It's just kind of a belief system. But they do use the term just kind of colloquially to mean not necessarily just magical thinking, but any kind of specific magical thinking where you're kind of like expecting rational results from irrational means, or only seeing the end product of something and not understanding like what goes into producing all of that, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. So they still use the term. I kind of feel like the term is probably more common nowadays in just regular discourse, and I'm not sure if a lot of people know where it came from, like what it actually is, like what they were actually talking about. Because I hear people talking about it like just in talking kind of about magical thinking, like cargo cult thinking or something like that, but I'm not really sure if they know that like exactly all the details of where it came from. We kind of call this is kind of funny, but we sometimes tease Pookie that she is in a cargo cult because she has a very specific ritual. She will come over, she will toddle over to Tom's side of the bed, because that's where the meat sticks are, like in the drawer of his
these little things. They're like
little, end table.
Yeah, they're like little Slim Jims.
Yeah, little Slims, like Slim Jims for kitties. They're like
meat stick.
Yeah,
we
like
call them meat sticks.
like Sheba
meat stick, I think is what it's called, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's like tuna flavor. She doesn't eat the other flavors, but she likes the tuna ones a lot. And so she has a very specific ritual where she will toddle over there next to the drawer. If Tom is sitting on the bed, she will stare at him.
Yeah, she'll be sitting there
intensely
in a specific spot.
Yeah, she just sits in a very specific spot.
It's like a landing pad. It's the meat stick landing pad.
With a look on her face.
Yeah, she's like.
Now, if you don't pay any attention to her for X amount of time, she will jump into the little cubby part and start pulling stuff out of the...
Trying to knock shit out,
trying to knock shit out. Because she knows she'll get yelled at.
Yeah.
And she'll do that for a second, you yell at her, and then she sits again and stares.
She's like, meat sticks. Yeah.
So it's like a whole little ritual that she has established because she knows that meat stick will come at the end of it.
And she's real slow to understand when we run out. I'll open the drawer and I go, look, there is none. So she'll just sit there some more and try again. So look, we don't have any. That might take her a long time. And then she's like, eventually she's like, I guess we don't have any. Don't have any.
I try to always have some. Yeah. Like, I even have them on the Amazon subscribe thing. Like,
thing is the more you have them, the more it reinforces that they're always in there. So
I know.
They become a thing where we always have some.
That's what I mean. It's like, because usually we do, because I usually keep them stocked, but every now and then, they'll run out, and I don't usually look in that drawer, and Tom will forget to tell me that it's we're out, and then I'm like, well, shit, now I gotta order some, because they have the meat sticks at Publix, but they only have salmon and chicken. They don't have the tuna ones, and the tuna ones are the only ones she'll eat.
Yeah.
Because I've got the other ones before, and she's like, fuck that, I don't like it. So it's like a whole... What?
Oh, so I guess we're at the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So, sorry, I was talking about something else.
No, sorry.
Well, like I said,
I didn't realize we were at the end.
Yeah, I just thought it was kind of funny because you can see the kind of humans do it too, but you can see the kitty doing that as well. Like she also has a whole ritual where she wants Tom to play with her with the little stick with the long thing on it.
Yeah, it's got a long ribbon of fucking fur.
Yeah, she loves that.
Fucking bell on the end of it. She likes to fucking grab it and pull on it.
And to play with that, she knows she needs to go over to the window shades
and start smacking the shades.
Start smacking the window shades.
And I get pissed. I'm like, hey, you stop it. And then she fucking gets low and runs right in front of me and lays in front of my feet. Because she knows that I'm going to go, okay, I know what you're doing. She's like, let's play.
Yeah. So in a way,
she's got her own little language.
In a way, it's kind of not like a cargo cult because she gets what she wants.
Yeah.
It's just, it's actually rational.
Well, it's more like a form of communication. She can't talk.
She can't talk.
So she does certain things as kind of like sign language to let you know what it was she wants. Yeah. She knows that makes me mad. Yeah. But she also knows that I will fucking play
that you'll pay attention.
You'll pay attention, yeah.
And we'll get the toys out.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like I said, she's not dumb. She's figured that out.
Yeah.
But the reason we call it cargo cult was because we just thought it was so funny that we call it
the Pookie cargo cult.
The Pookie cargo. Here's we call it the meat stick landing pad because she sits in the exact same spot.
Yeah, yeah.
And just stares.
Yeah.
Up at Tom, on the bed.
But they show up, so it's real.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. So it's so it's not irrational.
No.
It's not like waiting for a dude to show up.
No.
For decades.
Yeah.
That's never going to show up and building straw planes and stuff. Yeah. She's just sitting there. And indeed, the meat sticks do sometimes. Like I said, sometimes
several
we run out.
times a day.
Sometimes we run out.
Yeah, but several times a day.
And man, those things are not cheap.
No.
Hey, Pookie, we were just talking about you.
She's gotten so fat off them things.
Because she doesn't eat a lot of wet food.
Mm-mm.
I put wet food out for them, but Bambi eats most of that. But Pookie eats treats and she eats meat sticks. That's all she ever wants is meat sticks. She will jump up on the bed, but like I said, she has a whole thing where you have to hold it so she can chew on it, and it's just a whole fucking, like I said, it's a little ritual. She really likes all her little rituals that she has to do. It's just really fun.
All right, Jen, let's go ahead and shut it down. Let's take this in.
Yeah, okay.
And time for us to start getting ready for sleep.
Yeah.
Take a shower. Yeah.
Are you hungry or no?
We can go get something to eat if you want to get something.
Well, we don't have to go get anything to eat. I just didn't know if there was anything here.
I don't think there's anything. I'd have to make something.
Oh, okay.
If not, we have to go out and buy something.
Oh, well.
What time is it?
It's almost 10.
Okay, still early.
It's still pretty early.
Yeah.
Full Metal Nos Project says, Jenny, my fiance has decided not to give our dog Rio any food, and especially treats that are not made in America. Turns out some of the treats can cause kidney disease, which is what our late pets had. Yeah, I mean, Pookie is not... We tease her about being a little bit chubby and everything like that. She doesn't eat a great deal, and she does run around a lot, especially now that we got Bambi and they chase each other and stuff. But I don't know. I feel bad because she loves those meat sticks so much, and I just feel like such an asshole when we run out because she gives you this look really? Like, how could you do this to me? Then I just like, and I feel guilty. But, they're totally spoiled. I don't know. I kind of feel like maybe I should put her on a diet, but I don't. I probably should, but I don't know. I kind of feel bad about it too. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up for this evening. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. Like I said, I've been wanting to do a show about this for a while because I find this a really fascinating topic, so hopefully you guys did too. We'll be back on Friday night, as usual, for our regular sidetrack show, which is always a lot of fun, so hopefully you can join us for that. Have a good rest of your evening, you guys. Have a good day tomorrow, and we'll see you guys again on Friday night. Good night.